idea.
We're going live here. And we are live. Hey, welcome one and all to the Unrestricted Paranormal.com program and Unrestricted Paranormal show. You can go over to our network at www.unrestricted paranormal.com. It's spelled Unrestrxtd Paranormal.com. That is our network. You're also hearing this show audio wise on Sunday, Saturday nights. Or Saturday, Sunday nights. I always get my days crossed up. But it's at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Unrestricted Radio, which is spelled normally. We are working to correct my dilemma with having to use the X in my network. But you're hearing us over there. Stacy Lee has put on a great program. That download for that app is free, folks. I want to remind all of you, please go to unrestrictedradio.com. Download the app on your phone. You can Bluetooth this in your car, your phone, wherever you are at, you're getting a signal. You can listen to the shows, and it's 24/7, 7 days a week. There's music there for everybody. I have played the Jimmy Dorsey, rock and roll. I've played it all, even some rap. I'm not a big rap fan, but I've played some stuff. As long as it's dirty, hey, I'll play it. But I also want to thank the supporter to this program. I want to remain supporters. Frank. Wow, everybody, I'm losing it. I'm drinking some hemp coffee tonight because of my arthritis. Maybe it's kicking in. I don't know. Our supporter of the program. Yeah, I'm not driving anywhere later, so it's good. But go to hendersoncastle.com. It's an 1895 bed and breakfast here in Kalamazoo. And you too can stay at this beautiful home put together by Frank Henderson of the Henderson Ames Company, History, Fortune. Yours truly gives a once-a-month ghost hunt and a dinner. And on the 15th of this month here, coming up soon, we're having one on a Friday night, and you can come join us. And, of course, Gun Barrel Coffee. This is what I'm drinking tonight. I've got their CBD oil, rather, not hemp, but CBD oil coffee. And Gun Barrel are great guys. It's roasted by veterans, owned by veterans. Proceeds of the sales go to help veterans. So gunbarrelcoffee.com. Go over there and talk to Brian and then Sal. And they're just great folks, just wonderful folks. Well, I've got a special guest. Special because I like to try to have him on, if not once, twice a month. This is the second time on the program here in 2 months. And we're going to remedy that. But everybody welcome Dr. Michael Lynch, PhD, to the program. Mike and I were talking about some stuff offline before we got the show started. But Michael, thanks for being with us again here.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me. I just going to throw this out. I thought you said unscripted, not unrestricted. And George Norrie's show, Coast to Coast, is scripted.
Yeah, and I'm very unscripted. Yeah, so we could throw that in there as it goes.
I think there's a couple more shows out there that you send them their questions. Like I would send you a list of like 20 questions, and then they would read them off, and then you would talk about that because George, he makes it as easy as possible. I mean, a lot of them do.
Yeah. That's what they sent me when I was going to be on. It's quite a few years ago. This is just maybe a year or two in after George took over. Yeah. And Tom Danheiser, is that his producer? I think he sent me. He sent me some stuff in the mail, and I had to fill out these bullet points of certain questions that he would ask me on air. To keep it where, like you said, where it's scripted. And once in a while, I'll hear George kind of go off.
He does.
Turns into an interesting situation, but
he does. Yeah, he does. Now, when I was with Art Bell, oh gee whiz, what was I going to say? When I was with Art Bell, Lisa Lyons was his producer, and I worked with her. And one time she said she actually said, send me. We emailed, and she said, send me your email address or whatever, what the deal was. And she says, do you have any photos that we can use? And I said, oh yeah, sure. So I just emailed her a few photos, and she put them on the site. And even way back then, everybody was going, oh God, this is fake. No one can have high resolution video of orbs, flying around, they ghost around. And so Lisa Lyons was the original producer, and I used to deal with her. I don't know whatever happened to her, but a lot of people, a lot of things change.
People come and go. Michelle Freed, I work with Michelle. She just hit me up today, and she is a person who we're getting guests for Art when he was doing midnight the whole midnight deal that he was on for a short time before he passed away.
Yeah.
And Michelle, knows you, and Michelle knows other guests. And
oh yeah, that's right. Michelle,
I
I
told
know
her,
her. Yeah,
yeah, Michelle Freed.
yeah, we're friends on Facebook. We're Facebook
Yeah,
friends.
yeah, I love her dearly. I've never
Yeah.
met her, but I love her dearly because she
Yeah.
sends me a lot of great people. And she wanted to know if I was ready for the May and June guest list. And I'm like, well, I was still taking a break, and we were getting some of our own people, but I'll be in touch with her. But the topic I wanted to mess with tonight, there's two. One being, I remember when we had you on with Bob and I and Elmer, and you had you rushed home, and you had just got back from a Bigfoot
from Squatch
excursion.
Yeah,
a Sasquatch excursion. So
yeah.
I got to thinking about that, and then you brought up something when we talked off air tonight, a little bit about the reptilian people. So the first one I wanted to jump into was the Sasquatch and other names of this cryptid. This I think it's a hominid. I think it's a I won't say human because you can't really say that it's human, but you know what I mean. It's a hominid. It's bipedal. I think my thoughts are out everywhere, but we're gonna sift through your brains tonight and see where it matches in with some of my thoughts.
What little I have left,
What little you have left,
like, I got like
he's raised children, right?
35. I got like 35 things going on at the same time,
Oh yeah,
I don't get a lot of sleep, but yeah. Now this is the first thing I want to put out there, and I know a lot of Bigfoot enthusiasts and researchers. I'm not knocking them at all. I mean, they're very brave to go out there and face a 1-ton animal, other than a rhinoceros or a hippopotamus. There's a let me just think. Okay, the Native Americans all through Washington State, Oregon, California, and Idaho all have names for Bigfoot. Okay. When the white man came over, he didn't know what this was. He had no name for this beast or whatever they wanted to call it. Now, there were a few famous people that's supposed to have found its tracks and hunted it down.
Yeah, including Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt was one.
Running with one, yeah.
That's right. Now, his guide, he had a guide on one of the trips, and he kind of knew what it was, but it was an ancient legend. No one had really shot one, came up on one, things like that. So the white man didn't have anything in his vocabulary, his vernacular, to actually describe what this was. So as the Indians kept changing reservations, not in the Grand Hotel, reservations, and being pushed further west into that upper Olympia Peninsula up there. This is when you start having direct encounters.
Yep.
Chiefs, warriors, tribal members, and they called it the Wendigo. And they thought it was a man that shape shifted into this massive beast and would go crazy. Now, a Wendigo, or Wendigo, you can call it Wendigo, yeah. And so this is kind of where we get the idea of skinwalker. It's kind of an off branch where a man takes on a form of a wolf or of a different species, and then so we start, because the tribes are becoming compressed, and so they sit around the campfire and smoke a little peyote, and they got to tell some some tall tales.
Some strangest of the night tales.
Yes, exactly. They got to scare the little kids so they won't run off on them.
So they behave. That's time honored tradition right there.
The boogeyman comes in different forms. Now this is not like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. This is like the Knights of the Chiefs pounding on their chest saying, "Oh, back when I was young, I met this 8-foot tall dude, man, and he was covered in hair, and he couldn't talk our language, and stuff like this."
Right.
And there was a couple of tribes that actually had what the Australians would say a walkabout. So they would take a warrior or a young kid, and they would say, the great spirits have said, go out and discover, a world, go out and discover a world or whatever. And so this kid would go out on his own and try to have a vision quest, try to have visions come into his head to find his destiny, to find his purpose in life, and also pick up a totem. And it would be of an animal. Sometimes it's a gecko, or sometimes it's a wolf or bear or whatever. And they would make this totem and they would wear it around because that was their protector. That was their protector spirit. Okay. Then all of a sudden, these protector spirits did not protect them against this hairy Sasquatch animal.
That's the Spanish version. Sasquatch. Or Italian. Italian, rather. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, when the conquistadors come over, they go, "Who is this Sasquatch?" And
sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. We're gonna have some fun here. And so what the white man, and again the Spaniards and the French, when they all came to America, they were all talking about that. They were hearing this folklore from the Indians about this beast. Now, knowing the average white guy, he's going to say, "Man, I pray that I don't run into that thing." It's like, I don't want to, get involved with that thing. And so they really kind of like avoided all this, and they were really basically after land or gold. So the white man was not in the mindset of pretending that these Indians knew what was going on, because they were smoking peyote and telling big stories. We all go to the pub and have a Harvey, have a Jägermeister or whatever they do now.
If you were going to say Harvey Wallbanger, I'm going to love you, because I say that a lot.
Say Harvey Wallbanger.
Yeah, and people look at me like, "What the hell is that?" It's like, it's a drink, man. Trust me, look it up.
One time I ordered a Cosmopolitan, and people looked at me like, "Whoa, let's get the dictionary and blow it off." Blow off the cocktail dictionary.
All the dust.
Yeah, I still didn't like them after all these years. I still haven't gotten to that. But anyway, I regress. Okay, so when the white man shows up, we have a lot of different tribes: the Navajo, the Cheyenne, the Cherokee, some of the Cherokee, and the Blackfoot. And the Blackfoot, all of these guys talk about star people. They start talking about Sasquatch, the ant people, and that they are children of the stars.
Right.
Okay. Well, the white man just says, "Well, I might as well kill you because it looks like you're gotten rabies, and you're foaming at the mouth, and this is just wasting our time." Well, so the white man came in and took over. Let's just say that he had a hostile takeover, and as he went up to Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, and going into the peninsula up north.
Yeah.
He got a very big awakening. Now, remember, England had cut down almost all of their trees.
Yeah, that's why it looks the way it does.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and I've been there several times, and it's like you drive around and you go, "Is that natural, or did you guys plant that?" "Oh, we planted that." They have been planting trees. Well, in Canada and America,
there's been a recovery project in
the old growth trees. Yeah. So if you're still making wooden skimmers, if you're still making wooden boats, and you're trying to deliver goods, you're going to come to America, you're going to chop down a bunch of trees, and then you're going to build a new boat. So they would come from England with goods, and then they would buy a boat, a brand new one, and then they would go down to Jamaica, and then they would cut back up and go back to England or Spain or Portugal when they were doing this. Now, there's a whole segment of our history about pirates. And the pirates were these, some were privateers, meaning they were protected by the king of whatever country. Others were just downright pirates.
Right, so they could raid other countries, yeah.
And there is an old saying, which I believe was true: when their ships got pretty old, they put a cannon face down into their boats and blew the cannon so it would make a big hole in the bottom of their ship. So their crew would have to jump onto the next ship and steal theirs.
We'd like to welcome Drew to the show. Everybody,
hey,
welcome Drew.
Oh, Dr. Lynch, pleasure,
Hey,
sir.
yeah, what's going on? So anyway, so the deal is that during this pirate epic era, they either had to steal a boat or they had to have a boat made, and this is where Oak Island comes in.
Oh yeah.
The Templars brought over oak trees, just like the Romans brought over chestnut trees, and they brought them to northern Canada because they were from Scotland, and they went to the same temperate zone. And so they went to this island and they planted all oak trees.
Mm-hmm.
And then when those oak trees made acorns, they took them over to the mainland of Canada and started planting them there for the only reason for wood production, because they liked their boats made out of oak.
Oak, yeah.
Yeah. Now the I'm gonna call Wigwam tribe, but it's not the
I know. Oh man, I know who you're talking
tribe
about.
of Indians. Anyway, the tribe of they duplicated the flag of the Knights Templar, and they helped them grow these oak trees, and they had never seen them before. Now, when the conquistadors came over, they came over with the horses.
Yeah.
And for a long time, the Indians thought that they were all one creature, and they like a satyr. Okay.
Yeah, because that's all they had to draw from. Yeah, when
that's
they
all
saw
they had
these guys riding these horses, right?
Yeah. So anyway, what was really funny was when one of them jumped off his horse, the Indians stood back and go, "Oh my God, he's just another smelly Spaniard." No, he goes, "Oh my God, he's just a man. He's just a man.
He's another smelly Spaniard." Okay, yes.
He's just a man. They were Mayan and Aztec, so Spaniards were a little bit different. But anyway, so the deal is that the only other weird thing was that the Spaniards could take their boots off. And the Indians looked at that and go, "Oh my God, he's tearing his skin off." Because they thought they were boots. Now, the Blackfoot tribe, which I have some distant relation with, they virtually painted from the knee down to their feet black.
Yeah.
And that was to imitate or mimic the riding boot of these British and English
boots, right?
And the French, they were military boots. They're, some people today would call them highwayman boots, but the highwayman boots came up to your thigh because you would ride through weeds and tall grass and stuff. But anyway, I digress again. But anyway, if you go over toward the west, you'll start seeing totem poles that are 1,000 years old.
Oh yeah.
And on those totem poles are animals which have migrated away. And the Indians, like the Nazca, prayed that they would come back, and they would have ceremonies like geese and beaver and otter, and they started calling them, the seals were the only thing that they really didn't care for, and they would kill them. That was their food and blubber, fat for the winter.
On the western part of the Arctic.
So anyway, when they encountered Sasquatch, and there's like 200 names for him by different tribes. When they come across the Sasquatch, well, that was just one tribe's name. They had really no idea what was going on. So they call him the hairy man of the woods. That's kind of what Sasquatch means.
King of the mountain. Yeah.
King of the mountain.
Man. Yep.
Well, we're going to rush through time here because between Teddy Roosevelt and the 1950s, the lumber barons had gone into Canada and America, northern countries, and probably in on some reservations there, I'm sorry to say. And they have deforested a lot of those trees. They just took them away. There was another campaign just like this that went down to Africa, and they just stripped all of these trees. And they were so big around, they would you could live in them. You could, the size of a house.
They're huge.
It took days to cut it down with the long saws. So anyway, so Canada and Northern America were virtually deforested. At the same time, a little bit earlier than that, Wild Bill Hickok was down south in not even Dakotas. He was like down in northern Texas, and he was killing off all the buffalo. So at one time, there was enough buffalo in America that when they went in circulation, they would start, let's say in Texas and Oklahoma, and they would go make this circuit. And that's why there was no trees in Kansas. They called them the Kansas sodbusters because there were no trees, because the buffalo made this circuit and came back and ate all that foliage, ate the trees, the grass and everything. So every year, the native, the mobile ones like the Cherokee, they would follow the buffalo, kill a few, and then make their tents and, get along that way. Well, the white man came in and said, okay, well, that fun's all over. So we're going to wipe those out. They're just a nuisance. And we're going to wipe off all the trees because we need them for shipping and lumber. And they had, even after the Civil War, I don't know exactly what date, but even after the Civil War, they were still making wooden vessels.
Oh, yeah.
For shipping, for navigation and shipping. So this was mass deforestation. Okay, so a lumberjack wakes up one day and goes, I'm going to go to work early today. And he takes his cup of coffee and his pancakes, and he's going off to the forest to knock down 10 more trees. And all of a sudden, he comes across this thing, which he thinks is a bear just scratching its claws on a tree, because that's how they sharpen their claws. The elk will sharpen their antlers on a tree. You'll see them sharpen their antlers. Okay. And then that bear will put down his claws and look straight at that guy. And that guy knows that's not no bear. But he doesn't say anything because it would be called chicken. Big lumberjack eating pancakes and maple syrup. And he's out there knocking down trees. He's not going to be afraid of a bear or anything like that.
Right.
Daniel Boone fought a bear.
You don't want to run. Yeah. You don't want to run back to camp. Like, I saw this 9-foot bear. It looks like a man. And they're all like, yeah, what are you eating in the morning?
So all of this gets sequestered, it's kind of poo-hooed. And if you go up into Canada, there was a couple of people. One was named of Ott. He was looking for gold. He was kind of a vagabond, you might say, looking for gold, looking for places to trap and hunt.
He was a miner.
Miner, and he was looking for I don't know, just about anything, I guess. Back in those days, you could just get on a mule and go and go and go.
Gold mining, it's all in one package for those guys.
All in one package. Anyway, so he bumps into one. Now he's a young man, and they scoop him up and take him back to their camp. Okay. Now this is a guy, he is he's no Harvard graduate, but he's pretty honest. You know what I'm saying? He's a really honest guy. Anyway, he says, now this is a story that they kept him there, and they did not know what he did not know why they kept him there. But he slept there, and he was in his sleeping bag. That's how they caught him. They grabbed him in his sleeping bag, and he couldn't get out. And then they hauled him back to their camp, and they laid him down, and he got out. And there was a woman, a female, and several kids, and a male. Well, they watched him quite a bit, and I know they're not cannibals. They may eat meat, but they're not going to eat this guy. So one morning, he starts a fire, and in the old days, they would just take a tin and coffee, and they would pour hot water into it.
Yep.
And swirl it around. They'd swirl it around to where all the coffee grounds made coffee. Then when the coffee grounds sank, they would take the upper layer of that coffee, the liquid, and pour it into a tin cup. Okay. Well, so he acted like he was going to drink it. So he siphoned off some into a tin cup and put it back down on this little fire, and then he pretended to drink it. Well, the Bigfoot comes over. Now there's another story where he also uses snuff.
Yeah, where he
Uh,
ended
the-
up, messing him up with the snuff. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
messing
that
them up
part of
with
the
the
story.
snuff, but they just blew that through their nose, and they didn't do anything. But a hot cup of coffee will send anybody to the bathroom. But anyway, it took this Bigfoot, and he drank it right out of the thing, and he goes, he scolded himself, and he runs off. Well, Ott jumps up and runs the other way, and he just said he ran all day and fell down exhausted, and that was his big tale. Now, there's a couple of other guys who were up in the similar area, not in Canada, but in Washington State, and they were miners. And they were
the cabin incident.
the cabin incident, yes. And where one of them actually shot a Bigfoot, left him, let him fall, and the other Bigfoot came later and threw rocks on him. Now, if you're as old as I am, you may remember a Johnny Quest episode where they're in Tibet, in Nepal, Tibet, and all these Sasquatch, are
the Yetis. The
Yetis come out. Yeah, exactly. The Yetis come out because they want to know what's going on. They don't like these people, in their territories and blah, blah, blah. And that's virtually what happened in that tale. So these things actually threw rocks onto the cabin, and they said the cabin felt like it was going to fall apart, but it didn't. It didn't. It was really strong.
And not that I want to put you in my age group either, Doctor, but I would say too that if anybody remembers, there's still a good film out there you can get on YouTube, and I think is it Sasquatch or Bigfoot? It's 1973 or 75, and that's where you meet some of the people who originated the BFRO, and basically it talks about these two stories that you've just related.
Yeah.
It talks about Ott's story and the miners, and for what it's worth, I'm saying there's some very good. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's very good information.
Very good information.
It's a very good watch. Even though it's dated, it's still very good watch.
Yeah. Now there's one documentary I think Disney may have done, but it was like a Disney film because it was highly narrated, and it was they did a lot of nature shots.
Yes.
And man, I cannot remember the name of that movie to save my life. But in there is where you get the howling at night.
Yeah.
You get this thing that's nocturnal. And it was, what, like any documentary, some of it could have been recreated, but they were all on horseback. They all went into the woods. Even their cookie, the cook was on horseback.
I know the film you're talking about, and it had the young college students that were accompanying them too.
And he wore short pants, cut off Levi's all the time. It's like that. Man, that was like
because that
was like yesterday, but I can't remember. I can't remember the name of that, but it was like kind of like it reminded me of a Disney film.
The bald guy that started. That's part of the. God, why am I forgetting his name? He's still alive, right? Because
there's a couple that are still alive now. Don't get that one confused with the one down in Arkansas.
No.
Because that's
where I'm at cryptid wise with this whole. You've shared the stories is that. Most of us Americans as this thing where it was started on TV documentaries, In Search of with Leonard Nimoy.
Way
back when. All
way
this stuff came
when.
out of the Northwest, and of course, obviously the Gimlin.
Oh yeah.
Hello. That's where it just came to light. If I were to say that it had its legs, and when you were talking about the Native Americans, Doctor, that I've always been a person that's tried to tell everybody, listen, there are very few tribes who would paint, animal skin or deer skin, whatever it was they were using to keep track of their history in a circular motion, like you said, in a circle.
That's right.
Most of them, it's oral history. And a lot of the oral history should not just be thrown out as just these wild, like you said, these campfire stories, because some of it's horrific. Some of the stories are horrific. And I think there's also been quite a discerning for me situation with watching this since I was a little boy, where everybody thinks this thing is just so calm and so easy to get along with, when obviously some of them can be aggressive, just like people. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying there's been any murders but there's just to pretend that this thing is just always so docile and happy.
Yeah.
To encounter
It's-
you
it's-
is just not the truth. It's not the truth.
It's
at all
that-
if you were to listen to the natives.
It's actually kind of weird you brought that up, Danny, because in the video that I premiered earlier with Tom Seward from Vancouver Island, he was talking about how he handles skeptics. And he says, do you think with all of the oral traditions, the paintings, the pictures, the stories that my people have been telling for over 1,000 years, they're all pathological liars?
Yeah. Good point,
It's that,
Drew.
it's
That's
that
a good point.
CBD coffee. That's what
That's
does
what,
it.
that's what
Yeah.
it is.
The THC.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's the THC coffee.
It's he's making a very valid point. And
Absolutely.
And you see
Okay.
you see Native American paintings and etchings.
Right. Now, we're
Crazy.
going to go different direction. Okay, just think if someone was telling you a story about Zeus or
Yep.
Achilles or Apollo or Athena, if someone was talking to you about that, would you kind of believe them? Or would you just be, oh, that's just myth, legend, Point being is that we destroy so much of the Indians' way of life, we couldn't determine or distinguish between legend or folklore or truth, you see. So, to add to the story, my dad took me hunting. Him and my uncle would always go goose hunting every year. And so for some reason, he took me. I don't know why. But anyway, we go up to Northern California. Now, I was a kid. So I was a really pretty young kid. So I really didn't know exactly this whole thing was about. So we go up to Northern California. He rents a cabin. And I must have fallen asleep in the car. That's the only thing I can remember is that I fell asleep in the car. But he put me on the sofa. Now, on the sofa of this cabin was a big bay. In front of it was a big bay window because it was part of like the living room, big bay window. And so anyway, I fall asleep on the sofa. Well, it must have been a full moon that night or something. But anyway, something woke me up. And I raise up and I look out the big bay window and I saw the silhouette of a marching man. And it had a kind of a conic head. And it looked to me like one of those hats that majorettes wear when they're conducting, the big hats like the British soldiers, at Buckingham Palace.
And it's got the big badge in the front.
It got the big badge. This is like a conical head. And it was cutting across the front of the cabin. And I thought that was really, I said, what would a person be out at night like this or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. What are you doing out there?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. Anyway, so I pass out, go back to sleep. Well, about 10 years later or so, I'm sitting there watching In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy. And they show the Patterson film.
Yeah.
And I go, my God, that is exactly what I saw. It's exactly what I saw. And I kept it quiet until I must have been 14, 15 years old. I didn't tell anybody. Yeah. And when I saw that Patterson film on In Search Of, I go, that's it. I said, whatever I saw, that was it. But I couldn't find that cabin again to save my life. And Patterson said himself, that was one chance in a lifetime.
Oh yeah.
So, so I really understand that. So Dr. Lynch is not only a believer, he's a seer. I've seen it and I believe it. Okay. Right. Now we have to go a different direction now if you want to get to this. Now
we will. I want you to hold on to that thought. Okay. It's time to take our first break.
Sell some coffee.
Everybody, I need to go up
and get some
more.
If that was Delta 8, I would be buying it.
It's good stuff, for arthritis. Again, gun barrel. But we're going to take our first break, guys. Everybody hang with us. We got Dr. Michael Lynch, PhD, with us. And, of course, joining us, co-hosting the show tonight, Drew. It's always happy to have Drew here from Living History's Mysteries and, of course, the Midwest Parahistorical Society. I work with him in both. So it's fun to have him on. Elmer couldn't make it tonight. But, everybody, Remember, this program and many like it on my network are sponsored entirely, I mean, all by itself, by Henderson Castle. Francois Moyer. We have to give him a round of applause. He is the owner and caretaker of that castle. And it's an 1895 bed and breakfast. Once a month, we have historic ghost tours. Please come and see us. Go to hendersoncastle.com. Also, Gun Barrel Coffee, gunbarrelcoffee.com. Go check them out. They're out of Batavia, Illinois. I did say Batavia. Yes, that is a place. And they've got a store there. And proceeds from sales of everything they sell out of that store go to help veterans. You can't ask for anything very much cooler than that. I'm all about my vets. Also, Till Valhalla. You see me wearing the dog tags. Those of you watching at home, I support these guys. We're losing 22 veterans a day to, medical issues and suicide. It's staggering. So please go over and check them out. We're going to listen to some rock and roll music and some PSAs and some other good stuff. And we will be back for more. We will be back for more as I drink some more marijuana coffee. And we'll talk more about Bigfoot.
I'll stick with my regular coffee.
Those of you watching at home, it's a CBD oil coffee, and I used this mug tonight in honor of my guest. Yeah, it says "Live long and prosper." And I have this one. I got the Enterprise. I got a slew of them. My Ghostbuster.
Hey,
one,
you never told me that.
My Ghostbuster one, I dropped and broke the handle on it. My Marshmallow one's intact. My Ghostbuster one is history. So
it's cursed. It was cursed.
Yeah, I tried to fix it, with the lousy commercials like you can glue on handles to your coffee cup. Yeah, bullshit. No. It doesn't hold on there. All right, everybody, we are back. We're here on Unrestricted Paranormal, and we have our special guest who is going to be with us more and more often. I've been trying to talk him into really being a big part. Now, he has a page on this network. If you go to www.unrestrxtdparanormal.com, I believe I called it the Lynch Factor. Now, it's a lot of your older stuff, Doctor, but I told people, listen, man, if you want to learn and lull yourself to sleep at the same time, listen to Paranormal Zen. He has got a voice that will put you to sleep in a good way, because I have fallen asleep to a couple of his programs, and I still retained everything that I was listening to, which is really bizarre.
Wake up smarter. You wake up smarter.
Yeah. But Dr. Michael Lynch is with us. We've got Drew with us from Living Histories and Mysteries. I always want to say that backwards. And also the Midwest Parahistorical Society. And Tommy, welcome. Glad you're out there watching. We were talking about Sasquatch. You had a thought before we went into break. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Hey, Elmer, if
Elmer's watching.
Elmer, you should be here, man.
Or he catches it later.
Yeah, you're missing out, Elmer. I looked into this one. You're missing out, Elmer.
That's right. You got the Elmer position, Drew. You got the.
I'm proud to have it.
You're in the Elmer seat, but at least you're in a studio. Elmer's always sitting in his car. So,
oh yeah, I know. It's cool. It's cool.
Continue with your thought when we went into break.
So I just want to accelerate through time here, because everyone takes the Patterson Gimbalin film and tries to say, oh, it's a guy in a swimsuit or a monkey suit or whatever, some type of suit. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, M.L. Klein has gone through that frame by frame. He's a Hollywood producer. He talked to Patterson before he died and got the whole schmear. Okay. So we know that the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, was 8 foot tall, at least 8 foot tall. Could not have been any smaller, could be larger, depending on the how we got connected to it. Now, everyone says that Patterson bought a costume from R.J. Morris. No, Morris? No. Was it Morris or Phillips?
No, I don't remember his name. I'm just shaking my head that it's whoever came up with that. It's such BS.
Yeah, it's okay. Now he says that he has the sales slip of Patterson buying that, and he shipped it to Patterson. And then he claims that Patterson called him and says, "Hey, it doesn't fit right. How do we make the shoulders bigger?" And he said, "Go down to the local high school and get some football pads, and that will fill out the shoulders." And that's the excuse for the neck being so small.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, That's their story. And I tell you, they went around the nation selling that story. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know what the purpose. I will tell you that a photo was released this year. Well, probably before this year. You've seen it, where he's holding supposedly the head and parts of the suit. And it's like, it doesn't. Anybody with a brain, folks, it doesn't even look like
Patty. No, it doesn't look like Patterson's film.
Doesn't look like Patty at all.
Okay. If you ever saw, and I hope that everyone does, is to see the B footage of what Patterson threw away.
Yep.
That will scare you.
Yeah, the complete run. Right.
Yes.
Right.
You'll be having to wear the pins for a week.
Yeah.
Because in the B-roll film, there are 2 Sasquatch in the woods. You see the Bigfoot that Patterson's shooting, and when she gets to the end, a male comes out behind a tree, and then they go together and they go up that ridge.
Yeah, Gimlin, who's still out there doing the circuit, he has said as much. He's like, the thing is, we initially thought, after really looking at the film, that she was protecting a couple of them that might have been there, and that was a distraction because, it was an accidental meeting.
Exactly.
It wasn't like they hounded it down following footprints, guys.
No.
Most of these run-ins with these Sasquatch are accidental.
Right. Yes.
I know. I didn't mean to get on my soapbox. Yeah.
No. I agree with you. The best Bigfoot corpus delicti will be from Grandma Jones coming home from church on Sunday and smacking into one because she can't see very far.
Oh yeah.
And then that's how we're going to get one. But I'll tell you. Okay. So
I know the Grandma Jones thing got me too. I'm like, well, Grandma Jones has quite an exciting life.
Yes, exactly. I mean, she only drove that truck to church, and it's a 4-wheel drive, and she loves that power, And when she comes home, she's going to smack into a Bigfoot. But anyway, so Gimlin and Patterson, what they don't get into, go back to this little town, which is like 10 miles ride away, and they get all this plaster Paris. And then they get half the town to come with them, and then they ride back out, and they make foot impressions, and they take film of this. Okay, they don't even talk about this. Okay, now I'm going to fast forward through time again. When those casts dry, some of the town takes them, and then Patterson keeps the rest of them in his barn. Okay. He wants to start a sideshow circus kind of thing to see the foot, to show the film and see the footprints of Bigfoot. Okay, well, that doesn't happen because Patterson gets sick. He has cancer. He gets sick, and Gimlin doesn't want to mess with that, And so anyway, on Patterson's close to his death, he calls Grover Krantz, and he says, Grover, I know you're a university professor and you have an interest in this. I want to give you all my footprints. Grover Krantz got like 20 or 30 of the original footprint casts, and he had done the most physical evidence of Bigfoot that you could ever possibly imagine. He had
anybody at that time.
He had a copy of the film.
He was a pioneer in that. Yeah,
he was a pioneer. So here we go. Now, this is what I wanted to talk about before: is the chain of evidence. The chain of evidence starts with a sighting and then goes, and you have to follow that chain to make sure it's not corrupted. And this is the same thing in the police department. It's the same thing in the district attorney's office. It's a chain of evidence.
Paranormal investigating too, if you're doing it right, guys.
Right, exactly. Everything is marked. Everything is labeled. It is boxed or brown paper bagged, as we used to do in the old days. Then everything puts it in plastic. But anyway, so the whole thing is, the chain of evidence, if it's not corrupted, then there's no skeptic. And his mother can say, oh, you guys screwed that up or you faked it or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So Grover Krantz has all this stuff, right? Well, he writes a couple of books and people poo-hoo it. It's all fake.
Oh, they lost their minds over it. Yeah.
Grover Krantz goes, okay, well, I'm not getting any younger or prettier. So he takes half of that collection, almost all of it. I think he keeps a couple, and he sends those to museums. And then the rest of it goes to Oh, that guy. Oh, Jeff Meldrum. Jeff Meldrum.
Yeah, Jeffrey Meldrum.
The rest of them
Right.
go to Jeff Meldrum, and the other ones go to the guy out in the East Coast. He has Lauren Coleman.
Lauren Coleman. Yep.
Yeah, Lauren Coleman, and he has a museum, and he actually has some of the original footprints and a life-size version of a Bigfoot. And he's supposed to have had a hair given to him of a Yeti from Nepal. Okay. But when it was given to him, DNA evidence was, sci-fi. So he held on to it. But by the time DNA got around to it and he submitted that hair, it had lost its DNA.
Yeah.
But the curious part about that the Yeti and the Bigfoot have no melanin in their hair follicle.
That's correct. Yeah.
So when you put a big Sasquatch and a Bigfoot here, and there's only one other animal on the planet that has that, and that's a polar bear. Okay. So you have three animals. The reason why the polar bear is white, he has no melanin. It's empty on the inside. It's a genetic trait. And Bigfoot has no melanin in it at all. And neither does the Yeti. Now, here's the other thing too. Before DNA came out, there was a hair bank in Europe. And they sent this hair to them, and they have catalogs every hair follicle known to this planet. And it does not fit it at all onto any of those hairs. Yeah. Now, down in Texas, they dug up a Yeti, a Bigfoot body. And they sent some teeth out east for DNA analysis. And they ran that DNA, and they ran human DNA. And it was so close, except for one genetic code, that it could almost be us. Almost. I mean, we're talking about 2 or 3 genes. Not even that. Okay. Now, Discovery Channel has Jeff Meldrum and a couple of other dudes. They go up north to Canada, and they get in this little shack. Anyway, so
is that the one with, because they're the Olympic project, right?
Yes, that was it. Yes. Okay. And they put down this, the owner said it was broken into. The shack was broken into.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
They had to replace everything. Okay.
Yep.
Well, he put down this board with these screws driven into it.
Yep.
And whatever stepped on it bled out. Okay. So they took the DNA from that blood, sent it out to the East Coast again, and they did it. And it had zinc in it. Had too much zinc in it, but they ran another copy excluding the zinc. And guess what? It is the exact same genetic code as what was found in Texas.
Same as with the hair samples from that. Yeah, they had gotten him and maybe 1 or 2 other guys from the Olympic project, the cabin owner, and it was on Monster Quest. That's the people who ended up running it.
I'm sorry, I thought it was Discovery or something.
They own it. They're in charge of all that stuff. So yeah, it was a very interesting. You're right. You're very interesting, and they continue to this day to get hair fibers that they can't identify as anything being but close to us. And it's like one of those things where you scream as a believer is how much more proof do we have to present to you guys? If we were in a court of law,
yes,
we'd put him in prison at this point. I mean,
convicted. He is convicted. Okay.
Footprints, hair samples.
It's actually ironic that Dr. Lynch brought that up, because I've been sitting here for the last 15 minutes and I've had this question just boiling inside me, and he brought up every single damn thing that I was sitting here thinking about, which just once again proves when you get Squatch people together.
Oh yeah.
We're constantly, I was gonna ask you with the Nepal scout and the fact that they done the hair test follicles and it didn't compare to anything else in the world, and they done the screw board thing at the cabin. And the blood, the DNA didn't test to anything known. How science can still say, "Oh no, that doesn't exist."
Oh, you're opening a big Pandora's box.
I want to. I will rip the lock off and open that sucker up.
I got
No,
one
go
more.
for
I
it.
got one more little story for you, and then we're
Yes,
gonna
sir, doctor.
then we'll start with the evidence chain. And this is what I
Oh,
want to
okay.
Okay. So Josh Gates has destination. What's that? Unknown destination unknown. Josh
Yeah,
Gates.
Expedition Unknown at this
Oh,
point.
Expedition Unknown. That's it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So Josh Gates goes, well, I want to solve this Yeti Bigfoot thing, and he wants to see the scalp, right?
Yeah.
So he leans over to his driver. I don't know. This is like the first show he actually had a driver instead of driving himself. But anyway, so he leans over to his driver and he goes, "Hey, take me to that temple that has the Bigfoot in it, or the Yeti in it." And the driver goes, "Okay, no problem. No problem, Joe. We'll take you wherever you want to go." So they drive up to this temple. Now, Josh Gates is not aware of this temple. I mean,
there was a lot that was sprung on him in that, that episode. Yeah.
So he gets out of this temple. He gets out and he thinks that this is the temple that has the top, right? And he gets out and he goes in and he's like, well, who do I talk to about this Yeti thing? And anyway, so these priests come out and he thinks, oh, okay, this is all right. So he, does the blessing and, we're not here to harm anyone and all this other stuff. And he says, I want to see the Yeti. He goes, I want to see the Yeti. And they go, okay, you can see the Yeti, but no cameras. Yeah. So they put a microphone on him and he walks into the temple thinking he's just going to see the scalp, right? The conical scalp. No, it's a whole body. There's a whole body that is lying there with skin and bones and everything. And he's trying to describe it and he can't. It looks like a hairy man. That's all he can. He says, I don't know what this is. This is not what I expected, but this is real. And so he gives the priest a few dollars, or I don't know how that went down. But anyway, he walks back out and turns to his cameraman and says, that's not what I expected at all. So that means they have more than one body, scalp,
and they flim-flammed him a little bit too. I've talked to him off air. Deb met him, one of our VPs, and I've talked to him too. And there's some things he alludes to. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to make trouble. It's a thing where there was some flim-flamming going on the parts of the monks too. And it's hard to say that because they're very honest people, but they protect this story.
That's right.
And and they have different things up there, like the hand, which is not a Yeti hand.
Yes.
There's a goat scalp, which is a goat scalp. I mean, let's be honest. And those aren't really the artifacts that they represented that he thought he was going to be seeing. I mean, he said he was a little let down, but
Jimmy Stewart and his wife stole some of those bones and got them out of Nepal.
With that, there was a millionaire behind it. There's people trying to rescue those artifacts. Who knows where they're at?
Ever since Tom Slick and everybody else, they would go up to Nepal. They were multimillionaires.
Tom Slick,
they would go up and all that stuff, and they'd take photographs and stuff. Now Shackleton, I believe. Now Shackleton, man, I believe him, and me and Mike Shermer and I will sit here and we will get red in the face about how he says Shackleton faked those footprints.
Oh, bull crap.
What? And I said, Mike, I'm not going to go up 20,000 feet in the middle of the night and leave footprints, then run back to my camp. I would need a gas mask. I mean, it just didn't understand. Anyway, so Mike Shermer,
I'm with you, Doctor.
Shermer is sitting there arguing with me. No, Mike, he faked them. That was his ploy. If he couldn't get to the Himalayas, if he couldn't get up high enough or whatever, he was going to come back with Yeti feet. I just thought, no, Shackleton was interviewed on In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy by a British reporter that filmed him. And he sat there virtually in his hospice bed. Telling me, his last declaration. And you got to believe him. You got to believe him.
He wasn't known as a man to tell stories about stuff like that to begin with. On a mountain, it doesn't matter if he reached the top or not. That'd be my argument. It's like people die up there. Yeah. So what's the point? He was already famous. He didn't have to go find footprints. This guy was famous already. What is the point?
The news would have reported Shackleton stubs his toe, and that would have made press on the London Times. That would have made headline news. I mean, Shackleton didn't have to do jack. But he came back with those photos, and everyone's eyebrows go up and say, well, that is something that we don't want to mess with. But, okay, okay, so let's go back. I'm going to go back. Okay, chain of evidence. Stories being told about a monster.
Yep.
Sightings of that monster by Teddy Roosevelt and everybody else. Okay. Then you get to the Patterson-Gimlin film. You film the creature. You take the footprints. Okay. If you can grab a hair along the way, you're doing great. Okay. Just that right there is hard enough to sell to any scientist. Okay. So then the chain of evidence gets expanded because why? It goes to the universities, and the universities are now looking at this as anthropodic footprints. Okay. So then it goes all the way to Jeff Meldrum, and Meldrum has a laboratory filled with plaster of footprints. Oh, and here's the kicker. Here's the kicker that I want to throw out, which I, just keep an eye on the time, man, because I don't want to go over your schedule here.
You're not going over it. You got plenty of time.
Okay. So now Jeff Meldrum is sitting there with a whole lab filled with plaster footprints of everything from the Yowie from Australia to the Rang Pendik from the Philippines, a Ren Pendik, and he's got Bigfoot. He's got several different versions of Bigfoot.
Yeah, didn't he just acquire not too long ago some of the Russian stuff too?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. That's where we got Gigantopithecus, because they found the back molar, the back molar teeth, and they rebuilt the skull from that molar. They call them dragon's teeth. They were an herbal remedy.
Huge. Yeah,
they were huge. Okay, Gigantopithecus is the closest we can get to what we call Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Okay, now, so we've got people now with a form of evidence, and the chain does not break, right? All the way from where it started to Jeff Meldrum. Okay, so Jeff Meldrum gets mad at the skeptics, and he hires a forensic fingerprint analysis guy who comes in, okay, and he goes through all of the collection of Jeff Meldrum's. I mean, he's pulling out drawers. He's like looking at them with UV light. He's got them under the microscope. Jeff Meldrum's putting these things in 3D computer modeling. I mean, the whole 9 yards. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the kicker. Jeff Meldrum tries to trick him and says, okay, look at this footprint and then look at this footprint. And he goes, well, are they the same or whatever, And so the guy goes, okay. So he looks at one of them, and that's the Gimlin-Patterson footprint. And he says, look at the dermal ridges. And he says, this is a classic ape. The lines on the dermal ridges are classic ape. And he flips open his book and he goes, looks like a chimpanzee, the foot of a chimpanzee or a foot of a gorilla. Okay. And he goes into those dermal ridges and he goes, this is a great plaster cast. He goes, I could take this as evidence on a murder case. This is just pristine. Okay. Yeah. So then Jeff Meldrum lays another one down, and the guy looks at it and goes, okay. He goes, let me take a look at this. Oh, this is even better. And he goes, man, look at the dermal ridges. And he put some type of, I call it toner, black toner on it. And you could virtually see the dermal ridges while, the camera was looking at it. And he was saying, this looks just like, and then he looks down at the card, and he says, wait a minute. He doesn't even see the card yet, but he goes, the first one and the second one are identical. Okay. So the first one came from Patterson-Gimlin. The other one was 7 years later, 300 miles away. So you're telling me that Mr. Hieronymus put the costume back on 7 years later and went 300 miles away on a fishing trip and ran around the lake in the same costume,
right,
to create the same dermal ridges. And what gave it away was the bunions on the side of the foot. And if it had not, that's how close they were. So this Sasquatch, that Patterson-Gimlin filmed another footprint of theirs was found 7 years later, 300 miles away, and it got to Jeff Meldrum. And that forensic analysis said, I could take this to court and win. That's how confident he was. Okay.
You know,
So-
because
so
I'm
you
not
have-
because I haven't studied this for so many years. I just wanted to throw this out real quick. You know, I had him and the Olympic people on, Jeff Meldrum, my bucket list. You know, it's one of the
wait a minute.
guys.
What's her name? Melba Ketchum. Melba
Oh,
Ketchum
yeah.
did
Yeah.
the DNA research.
Yep.
Okay, off of a supposed kill. And she would not publish her findings.
Yeah, I never understood that. Why?
As she was interviewed, because she thought there was a murder involved. It was that close to being human.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
a group of guys go out and interview the guy who's supposed to have shot that Bigfoot, right?
Yep.
And they couldn't find any DNA, no blood on his boots, no DNA anywhere. They thought he was just making the whole thing up.
I remember that being said, but it's just like, it makes me wonder if there's somebody controlling some stuff from behind too. I mean, that's
Melba Ketchum retired because of that case. And she says, I am done with it.
Yeah.
She goes, I know for a fact that is so close to human, it could be murder, homicide.
It's crazy, man.
Okay.
Where I was going to say was that I've had the Olympic Project guys on, you know, and I didn't bring up certain things, which I might hear tonight. I don't know, because you know,
be my guest, man.
We're gonna go, you know, probably another hour. I can tell everybody, because we have a second part to the show.
Oh, we got a lot. Well, I haven't given you the best yet.
But I would never argue against some of the questions that I pose, because being that I've not spent the time that they have out in the world of study, out in the field, doing what to do. So I respect that immensely. I really do. I respect what Jeff's about too. But what I was hearing on occasion, and I hear this throughout the Bigfoot, I hear it throughout ghost circles, you know, the ghost field circles, I hear UFO. I won't say it's a lot of infighting, but there's a lot of differences of opinions. And there's more things that are alike than there are that are against one another. You know what I mean? But the one thing that I could never get kind of a straight answer on with any of them, if I were to ask this question and argue this point, was that, now listen, guys, this migration thing has always been a topic. It's like orbs to the paranormal, okay? And there's been proof on top of proof on top of proof from very good researchers, even
Tom
people
Piscardi,
who who don't have the TV shows and don't do other stuff, but they know. And I was shot down with my question in such a sense that he, you know, and Jeff is welcome to his opinion. I mean, he's been out there doing it way longer than me. So he didn't believe that. But then there were some people in his crew that kind of believe it. And my thing is, how do you deny, you know, that kind of thing? Because I've always thought that, listen, obviously in the Northwest, because of the weather and the way it changes, they would stay in one spot. But I am sure there are other areas where when weather turns bad, they move south to where food sources are a little more plentiful. And I've seen the proof. I've watched the proof over 20, 30 years of kind of layman wise studying this, doctor. And I'm really into the Sasquatch Bigfoot thing. And I told my mother when I was little, I told my mom, I'm going to become a cryptozoologist and go find Bigfoot. And I never did. My point is, I think they're migrational. That was my next question to you. I mean, your opinion on that, you know, in certain areas, not everywhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, before Dr. Lynch has a chance to answer that, that's actually something that I've been working on because of our own Michigan connection with Bigfoot. He seems to only be seen during the beginning of fall, never during the summer, spring, never into the wintertime. The reports, you know, that have come out from the upper UP, Manistee State Forest, but it's always in like the middle part of September till the middle part of November, and then it stops. And that's something I've always wondered about is, are they like salmon? Are they migrating back to this area
right
to mate, to do whatever, and then separating and going their different ways again? So I'm glad you brought that up, Dan. That's actually a really good point that I've been,
everybody has a different opinion and they skate around it sometimes too. And I'm just like, So go ahead, Doctor.
Now, Tom Biscardi came up that. Go ahead, Drew. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying, please go on. I'd like to hear your
okay.
views on that.
No, I'm just saying Tom Biscardi came up with that theory some time ago, a long time ago. He said they were migratory, and at the time I kind of went along with it because I know they're not domestic. Bigfoot is not a domestic creature. He is migratory. He's okay. Now, in the old days, the Indians, the Plains Indians, would follow the buffalo all summer, all year. And in the wintertime, they would go south where it was warmer. And it's the same philosophy with the white man. He goes north in the summer where it's cooler. And then he goes south on spring break and drinks it up down in Florida where it's warmer. So the psychology is the same, but the key is food. A animal the size of Sasquatch has got to continually eat. He's like a black bear. And he'll eat anything and everything a black bear will. And blackberries, if you follow the blackberries when they get ripe and, come into, is where the Bigfoot will end up going. You'll see them migrate with the blackberries. So they'll be up north when the blackberries are in bloom, and they start creeping their way south. And ducks do it, swans do it. Geese do it all the time. They migrate south. Oh, yeah. And that is food supply. Okay. So the whole idea is that if Sasquatch is, or Bigfoot, just as smart as we are, close to it, he's going to follow the food supply. It's the path of least resistance. And he is going to follow that chain of food all the way down. Now we hear of Momo the swamp monster. The down in New Orleans, it's the Lucaroo or something like that. Lucaroo, half wolfman, half Sasquatch. The swamp monster. The other that made that movie down in Arkansas. The Folk. It was in Folk, Arkansas. The monster of Folk, Arkansas. Anyway, that's all I think it is migratory path. And if Jeff Meldrum has the footprints of a creature that took 7 years, more or less, to travel 300 miles south, that's migratory to me. That's just self-evident, So the idea is that they're on the move. They're burning up energy. They've got to replace that energy. Now, there was a woman down south somewhere, and she claims that the Bigfoot would jump on a deer, break its neck, snap its neck, and then tear it open and eat on the meat on the inside. Now, she was the only one that reported that it eats meat, but other people have reported that it eats fish. And we know that orangutans eat fish. And so now, is this an acquired taste? Are they just doing it for self-preservation, survival? The survival mechanism in most things like us is pretty fierce, and they become slightly territorial, like wolves and panthers and other creatures like this. They become territorial. So a panther or a cougar will be maybe 60 miles from its original point of origin. And it, again, travels with the seasons. The Native Americans did it. The white man still does it. If you got the budget, if you got the budget to go down south for spring break, you can do it. But the whole point is that it's a food supply, a consistent food supply. Now, let me just take the average high school football team, and I kick them off the bus, and I say, "There's the woods, guys. Go out there and wrestle me up something to eat." Well, they're going to come back maybe with a mouse or a possum, maybe a handful of berries or cherries or whatever. Now, I got in a big argument again with another skeptic, and they said, "Mike," they go, "Bigfoot would starve to death. He would starve to death, in our woods today, because we've eliminated and poisoned so much of it." And I go, "Yeah, well, that's possible. But go over here to Illinois and pull up in somebody's backyard, and you'll see a garden of immense size. How many people plant corn? How many people grow vegetables in their backyard still today.
Yes, sir. The farm belts. That's where they migrate to.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, folks.
Now,
and it's actually it's actually quite funny that you brought that up, because I keep falling back to the video that I released tonight with Tom Seawood from Vancouver, and he talks about watching, because he does commercial fishing also, and he was talking about, if you watch the salmon as they come in and you watch the different fish, that's when more of the reports of the Sasquatch around Vancouver Island, Sasquatch Island, start to be along the oceans and stuff, where they're wading out knee deep and grabbing these fish and just eating them, and like a bear does on a river when the salmon are migrating. So it's actually
they're following the native species. So if I was now work with me with this psychology. Let's say I'm on an island, or I'm in a country that I don't know anything about. Let's say I just was dropped there. The first thing I'm going to do is watch the birds and some of the animals and see what they eat. And if they don't fall over dead, then I can eat that too. At least I'm going to try it. Okay. And then I will expand on that for wider and wider. So if I see something eat a carrot, like a rabbit grabs a carrot, okay, well, that looks interesting, so I'm going to try it. Okay. Turnips, maybe not so much, but heads of lettuce, cabbage, I'll eat that all day. You see, once you see another animal eat something and their digestion is not like a cow, I mean, 4 stomachs and the whole thing, but if they have a pretty decent digestive tract, I will follow those animals and I will eat the same food. And so if I see a bear eating a fish or a berry or whatever, I'm going to eat that, because that bear is as big as I am almost, and that bear's having a best time of his life. Now, there was a show called Alone.
I'm a big fan of that show. Yeah.
Okay, and they put these guys on islands, and it was an Indian reservation, but they were on islands, and they were given this thing to catch fish. It was a gill net. They called it a gill net. And they would put it out in the water, and the trout would actually, or salmon would actually come in and get caught in this net by their gills. And then they just pulled up this piece of wood, and then dinner was served. And it showed this guy, he had 10 or 15 salmon, and he had cut them up, filleted them, and he was smoking them, had smoked salmon. He said he was living large. So if you're a survivalist, I mean, I don't say you have to be Daniel Boone or Kit Carson or any of these guys, but if you're a survivalist, everything is food. It's dinner, dinner time. And I've seen, I've seen Indians on the reservation. I've seen Indians, let's go for a walk. It's like, okay. And then you're walking down a path and they stop and pick up something, dandelion fawns, and they eat it. They just eat it as they go down the path. They pull some berries from a tree, and they're just eating them. They just eat as they go. And I thought, man, this is exactly like Sasquatch. He's eating as he goes.
Correct. It's thousands of years of their evolution, and they identify plant life and things that they can eat, That's what I'm saying. If you're going to follow any science and you want to say science is involved in this, well, obviously, they've been living, for thousands and thousands of years. I mean, we don't know, but that's the best guess.
Oh,
and
no, we know
they'd be able to identify mushrooms and grass, you said, all sorts of force.
Again, very ironic that you brought that up, because when you start talking about, following the animals and watching the animals, being a historian for over 30 years, being a living historian, being actually descended from Mohawk, living in the area I live in, I had no Mohawk to talk to. So I had an Eastern Cherokee friend, and he told me the story of the Cherokee clans. There being 7 known clans, but the center of the Cherokee star is the unknown clan, the medicine people, the bear people.
Right.
And they would actually watch the bear to see what the bear ate, when the bear was just hungry, when the bear had diarrhea, when the bear had an upset stomach, and see what it ate to cure itself. And it took that knowledge back. They took that knowledge back to the tribe and taught them. So yeah, definitely following the animals and learning, you know, what they were consuming.
So the great white hunter said to me, he says, I don't eat what they eat. I mean, he doesn't eat what the animals eat. He goes, I kill the animal and I eat it. Now that's how a hunter will think. But if you're want to be more passive about it, you'll follow the domestic wildlife in that area. What does the deer eat? What does the eagle eat? What does the crow eat? You know, things like that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't suggest vegetarianism, but apothecarianism, if that's a word, you know, because apothecary involves all that, and I think that was one of the old world things that has been around again for thousands of years. Yeah, and I get what you're saying. I cannot imagine that they're not the same way. I mean, to avoid us to the extent that they do would lend to a high degree of brain use and of course intelligence on their part. I mean, they want nothing to do with us, and they are smart for being that way. They are absolutely smart for avoiding us and things that we do. You know, I have to give them that for sure. Yeah. Okay. And when these shows and these people go out on these things and they're setting up cameras and they're stinking up the place, it's I'm yelling at the TV doctor. It's like they are aware of you 5 minutes before you get out of your car. You guys, they see you doing this stuff. And then you wonder why nobody comes around if they do.
It's really funny because Dr. Lynch brought up Alive, and me and the wife, we love that show. Alone. Being alone. With me being an outdoorsman, I'm sitting here and I'm critiquing these people. Sure. Well, that's not the direction you want to build your shelter. You want it facing the other direction. That's not how you're going to set up that trap. Same thing,
Drew.
The wind blows a certain way. You know.
I'm doing the same
thing. And you know, she tells me, "Shut the hell up! If you're so good, be on that show and win us $1 million." And it's like, but it's.
But I'll tell you how far we are removed. We have removed ourselves. We live in a very virtually sterile environment than just 50 to 100 years ago. If you watch Naked and Afraid, I mean, I can't watch it very long, but these people are naked and they get out there in the jungle.
Oh yeah.
And in 5 minutes, they've got a rash. They've got insects all over them. You know, they just don't have the capacity.
They don't
to survive. They're naked and afraid. They're naked and stupid. You know, the Garden of Eden.
That's the new show. You know, that's the new season, Doctor. Naked and stupid.
Yeah. I mean,
don't eat the apple.
That's right. That's right. Ever since man got kicked out of the Garden of Eden on purpose,
it's just been a downhill run.
Yeah, it's been a downhill road. And like I said, you know, I think we talked this last time about COVID-19. We live almost a sterilized life that something like COVID, like bat guano. I mean, how often do we walk into bat guano? Zero. You know, if we step in a dog doo-doo or goose doo-doo, you know,
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, why is it every Batman movie when they show the bat cave, where's all the bat poop?
Yeah, okay.
Anybody got an answer? I didn't mean to get off topic, but I was thinking that watching the new Batman, like I am tired. Where are the bats pooping?
Yeah, don't talk about it. I haven't seen the Robert Pattinson one yet.
I ain't giving you that. I'm just saying the bats don't poop in the bat cave, apparently.
Yeah.
Okay, no, they go to the bat John the same as Bruce does.
Yeah, they got a bat toilet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Moving forward, Doctor.
So Josh Gates, I'm poking my finger at him. Josh Gates goes to this underground place in Bolivia or whatever. It's supposed to be the last sign of some ancient civilization. And so when Josh and his buds were exploring the cave, his cooks were back in the back cooking dinner, right? Well, they didn't put any lids on top of their food. So the bats just pooped in their food.
Yeah.
And they all got sick. They all got poisoned.
Yeah.
They had to cut that episode short, and then they had to be hauled out by a helicopter. And Josh Gates is sitting there in the hospital going, I'm okay. You know, it's like, dude, you got poisoned by bat
He
guano.
said it's been a learning experience for some of the stupid shit that they've gone through. But
Man,
I'm going to try to get him on again this year. We haven't talked to him in about 3 or 4 years.
Be prepared, man.
Oh, he's got a lot of fun stories. He's a fun guy.
Just remember, I do this all for you and ratings.
Oh, he does. I know what he's doing.
Sure.
But you know, if I'm going to say anything about across the board, though, but he takes himself serious, but not so serious he can't have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Jokes and yeah. He does a better job than some of the other shows that are out there. We won't even
of course.
get into
That's why I watch him. You know, he's very good.
He's fun.
You know?
He's fun to watch.
And
you know, if you could survive an airplane, roof of an airplane coming off on you up in the air, you could survive anything, right?
And he makes a joke about that when they're on the plane. Like, this was made before I was born. It was like all of a sudden, then boom,
and then the roof peels back. Yeah.
Okay.
You can't make that up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna round this
back
up.
to Bigfoot.
I'm gonna round this up real quick. Okay. Now, if you're into cryptozoology and the paranormal, you know that there is a species like Bigfoot almost on every continent. Russia, the Philippines, Australia, New Zealand. It can go around the globe.
Yeah.
Of a thing like this. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you a story that you don't have to believe, but it's the truth. 64,000 years ago, the Bigfoot species was brought to this planet, and they have been bringing them ever since, up to like last night, and dropping them off on this planet so that they can multiply in a game reserve, and then they can send them to other planets.
The silence is deafening.
Because their planet is dying or is being overpopulated. So they had to pull some out. And then they repopulated them in different spots over this planet. Now, the mountain gorilla doesn't hang out with the chimpanzees. The chimpanzees don't hang out with the orangutans. Orangutans are in India. Mountain gorillas in the mountains of Africa. Chimpanzees are close to equatorial Africa. They're not in the same place. There's 4 varieties of chimpanzees. Okay, there's 4 different varieties of chimpanzee. Okay, so there could be 10 varieties of Bigfoot. Now, they're vying over the same diet. Okay, but that doesn't mean they're the same exact species. But they did not originate here. They're not part of the Darwinian ladder to success. And we're not either. So
I will tell you why I believe you. There's a partial belief there, and maybe you know where I'm going to go with this. So as of this year, okay, I think we're at 20, right? 21 species of humanoids, including, was it Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon?
Oh, yeah.
And modern man. We are
we
are related to none of them.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
So
our family
where did
tree,
they all come from? And where? So
all
the stories we heard about how we walked out of the ocean and all. Come on, it's guys. My brain explodes because I'm just like, it can't be. But then it is, and that's science. Now
it's not science. That's
voodoo.
Now that's voodoo.
It's
magic.
Voodoo, man. It's magic.
It is voodoo magic, man.
Voodoo magic.
Okay,
doctor, is that called the panspermia theory, or is that?
Well, yeah, you can call that. You can call it that.
I don't.
Well, I know that for years they said that humans were actually, there were theorists that believed that humans were planted here thousands and thousands of years ago as us.
Well, we weren't planted here. We were
brought here.
No, we were raised here.
Think so?
That's why you can't get off the
genetically enhanced and grown here, right?
No, we were altered, genetically
altered,
meaning less chromosomes.
I mean,
so
that explains a lot.
What started the human race had a lot more chromosomes.
Right.
We only have like 20,000 pairs. Let's say you come from a race that had 40,000 pairs. Well, they're going to be definitely different. Definitely different. And they could be giants.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There were giants.
We
Yes,
were
sir.
created.
I'm a believer.
We were created about 480,000 years ago. And then we were left to our own devices for about 200,000 years. 200,000 years later, a whole flotilla of Pleiadians, Orions, Plejorans, Hyperboreans, Beta, Alpha and Beta, and some no Zetas came from the Pleiadian star system and came to Earth. And they saw what was kind of a self-sufficient species. Okay. Not very bright, but self-sufficient. And so they took 24 samples of their DNA. So we're made up. We today, the modern man, is made up of 24 different samples of 24 different species that roam our galaxy.
And this is not to offend anybody
No.
who's got faith,
No.
beliefs, or anything. My
No.
point is right alongside Dr. Lynch's is that look at some of the substance that we've collected from space and the moon and other places. It's in us. It's in our it's in our system. So how did it get there?
We are the universal donors.
I think you explained that. Why?
Yeah.
You can't argue that. It's not to shake your faith in a higher being. It's just to say, listen, man.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't
in
know.
the Old Testament, in the Old Testament it says there was a time before the moon, and in that time there were giants.
Right.
Okay. In Babylon conquers Israel. Babylon conquers Israel and takes all the people of Israel back to Babylon. And the king has them all bow down to a statue, big statue, life-size statue of Marduk. Bow down to Marduk. He is our God. Well, three of them jump up and say, no, we're not going to bow down to Marduk. He's not our God. Jehovah is our God, not Marduk. And the king looks at him and goes, doesn't matter. You're slaves of Babylon. You bow down to Marduk. Well, who in the hell was Marduk? Well, 200,000 years prior, or 300,000 years prior, Marduk was part of the Anunnaki, and he was a son of the Anunnaki hierarchy, just like Gilgamesh. 2/3 God, 1/3 man. Marduk was a god. Okay. Gilgamesh was a god. In essence, they were giants.
Yeah.
Giants. Okay. So Marduk wins a battle against some old Anunnakis who want to take all of the resources out of the smaller areas and then put them all together. And that was gold. Marduk rises up, being the son of the king, and goes out, and he's victorious. He kills the old woman Anunnaki. He cuts her in half, and he throws half of her body up into the air, which becomes half of the Milky Way. Now, if you look on the Egyptian scrolls, you'll see a woman, bent over.
Yeah.
And that represents the Milky Way.
Milky Way, yeah.
Right. Okay, that's from the legend and stories of Marduk. Okay.
Yep. Marduk.
So Marduk says, I will build a pearl for this area, and it becomes the city of Babylon. And Babylon is built because Marduk wants it built to be the shining example of the highest technology of that area under his godship. Okay. In the center, Marduk says, we will build the largest temple ever constructed. so that people from far away lands can see, will look, and they'll say, that is the temple of Marduk. When the Israelis, or I don't know, Hebrew show up, the Hebrews show up because they were captured in battle, and they go, oh, there are so many languages spoken here. We understand very little. They understood very little of the Babylonian language. And so we will call it the Tower of Babel. Babel.
Mhm.
And what did the Romans call the Germans? Barbarians.
Right.
Tower of Babel, meaning you can't understand what they're saying.
Yeah, because everybody's got using different languages.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
so Marduk was worshipped thousands of years after he left. Gilgamesh is still alive, but you didn't hear that from me. So
I heard it from a guy I know.
yeah, a guy you know.
Some
Okay.
dude.
So let's.
I'm
just say
actually a very fond believer in what the Bible says about I have many faces and I have many names, but I am the one true God.
well, yeah. Well, they all say that.
Mhm.
They want you to bow down to them.
Right.
There were over 70 gods, and they were given a region to find gold. The Garden of Eden was hammered out by the first original Anunnaki base team that came here, and they made aqueducts for planting crops, and they just cut it up and whittled it out, and they had man to be the crop growers. The Garden of Eden was that garden. It was man. And what's the first commandment? You know what the first commandment in the Bible is?
Come on, you should know this, Drew.
Thou shalt put no other God before me.
Mm-mm.
Thou shalt not kill.
No. It's to leave the earth better than when you found it.
Right. I knew this. I'm just testing everybody.
And the
Oh,
Indians,
so
the Indians knew it. The Chinese
one
knew
that
it.
didn't make the final cut.
Yeah, because why? That's
Right.
what the Anunnaki told man. He called them the children.
Leave
And
it
to
the
go
way you
back-
found it.
Yeah, because why? The earth will keep you alive if you treat it right.
Right.
That's the first commandment.
And listen, audience, we are going to take a second break, and we'll have 30 more minutes in the show because I want Dr. Lynch to continue this. It is fascinating. But you heard what he said there. Pack out your trash for the love of God. And you know, I'm going to throw this out here too, a little humor, but a serious note. You know, I'm all about helping the homeless, and we should not have homeless people anywhere in this country, anywhere in the world at this point in the 21st century. But I do have one observation. It's like, you know, there's trash cans right next to your camp. Pick up your trash. Okay, that's all right. We're going to go into our commercial break. As always, Henderson Castle, hendersoncastle.com, our supporter for this program. Also, gunbarrel.com, and we'll be back for more right after this. Now's the time to get a drink of water, go pee-pee.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a Jolly Rancher here. I'm gonna splurge here and get a Jolly Rancher.
While you're on that subject.
So Dr. Lynch, do you think that the Dead Sea Scrolls, as they were, you know, deciphering them before they, I'm air quoting here in case you can't see, before they came up missing, when they were talking about Eden being a garden and Gode being the one who owned that garden, you know, Gode would have been one of the other race that was watching over.
Why?
Well, according to the old story, Adam and Lilith, but
why would Adam and Eve or Lilith or their brothers who were naked in the woods
and
care
alone
about gold as a financial system?
They wouldn't.
They wouldn't. They don't
That'd
even
be an
know.
outsider. That'd be an outsider who
Right.
created that.
Okay.
Yeah. While we're taking our break and everybody's kind of watching here us live, these are some snacks that I told Drew about earlier today, folks. These are Ecto slime snacks. See the little Ghostbuster thing there on the corner. Where am I? On the corner there. This is Stay Puffed. These are green apple Jolly Rancher flavored, and they look like pork rinds, but it's candy. So Drew gets a box of them.
And I can't wait. I sat here all day long waiting to see if Danny was going to show up today.
Well, I'll be there tomorrow, and this is good for your diabetes. I'm just saying.
And that's fine. My diabetes. Hey, if nothing else, we'll claim that it helps to break up that blood clot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I probably
Guaranteed.
shouldn't still be sitting here. I probably shouldn't still be sitting here because I've been in this chair well over 2 hours now, and I'm
still get up and walk around once in a while.
Yeah, I'm still fighting. My wife's all concerned because I've had chest pain since 2 o'clock this morning, and I'm like, hey, the chest pains are a great side effect to the blood thinners working, because this is breaking up that blood clot and sending those chunks through my lungs. And they told me I was going to have chest pains and shortness of breath, but it's better than having a blood clot going from the top of my foot clear up to my left testicle. I've been married. I've been with my wife 30 years. I get chest pains. That's all I'm saying. You know my pain, fellas. No. Okay.
No,
we're gonna come back.
I understand it. I don't know why, but 30 years though. I'd put in some retirement papers on that one.
Yeah, I'm going to be out on good behavior here at some point.
He didn't say that, Eve. He did not say that.
She's not watching. I don't know.
After 45 years, you just gotta, retire. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you make it till you
get a lot less involved.
Hey, I look at all the crazy crap I did growing up, and since I met Stephanie, I've got diabetes. I've died twice. Now I've got a blood clot going from my. I think in marriage. I think marriage is the downfall of man.
It is. It is true.
And it all started with that damn apple. Come on, honey, just try it. It's pretty.
It's a great institution, but there's things.
Snow White. Snow White. Yes,
if my wife isn't trying to kill me, my kids are. All right.
Oh yeah.
Hey everybody, we're back. We are back here on the show.
John Bon Jovi said it best: marriage an institution, and I'm much too young to go to an institution.
This is true.
It should be institutionalized. I used to work at a major university, and I said, you know why they call this an institution? Is because they are institutionalized. I can go home at night, but these other guys, not quite. Not quite there. I can name names and tell you where the bodies are buried.
That's a whole other
show. But anyway, that's every show. Okay,
everybody, welcome back. We
were someplace. Oh yeah,
yeah, we were someplace. Yes.
Okay, so Marduk built Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel. So that was it. Marduk's shining temple was the Tower of Babel, and it was a great tourist attraction. Okay, well, the Jews go back to Israel after a while, and they put up their temple, and they put the ever lasting flame in front of it, ever burning flame, and it becomes a very good tourist attraction. So Solomon actually got to the point of saying, "Oh, we have 1,000 high places. How many do you have?" It's like they're kind of like bragging about this tourist, these attractions in every civilization. Oh, and what I was getting back to is that all of the civilizations that I know of, maybe a couple I don't, but like the Egyptians, Aztecs, Mayas, the Chinese, all took gold and they smelted it down, and they never used it for coinage.
No.
It was for worship.
Yep.
The Romans took the gold. I mean, they became so greedy. That was the downfall of Rome. But they became so greedy is that they melted down their golden statues to make coinage to pay the legionnaires so they wouldn't rebel against them. They gave their citizens free bread so they wouldn't rebel against them. I mean, it was next to wine and everything else. So there's a point to where gold runs out and you can't buy someone's loyalty any longer. Yeah. And they'll turn on you. That has happened. Everyone has a Bastille Day. It just happens.
Time in history again.
Yeah. Yep. And the only reason why the first map that was ever drawn in Egypt was a map to the gold mines. And they accumulated all of that gold for the day the Anunnaki would return to claim it. And the last time, which wasn't too long ago, 2012, 2013, 13, 14, the Anunnaki came back and they were intercepted. And let's just say we had some very good friends that gave them a bunch of gold, because there is none in Fort Knox.
I don't believe there's been any in there for a long time.
A long time. Yeah, there was more gold in the World
just
Trade.
continue to print money.
Yeah, there was more gold in the World Trade Towers than there was at Fort Knox. When they came down, they found trucks in the basement filled with gold. You know, so
if it just had one
we're
truck,
still
I'm not asking for much.
Yeah, we're still obeying our masters by digging up the gold, processing it. I mean, you can watch that show, Alaskan Gold or whatever it is, and they're up in Alaska and they're moving mounds of dirt to get to the gold, and they process it out and they take it down and they sell it to a guy, and that guy sells it to another guy, and that guy sells it to the United States or the Canadians or whatever, and it still goes to the highest bidder. The other day, I heard on conservative radio that, you know, doggone it, these oil companies should drill oil and make America self-sufficient again and all this other stuff. And it's like the oil representative gets interviewed and says, we sell it to the highest bidder. It doesn't stay in America. We have more oil up in Alaska than the Saudi Arabians have in their ground.
Right.
And yet we send it to Japan for refinement. And then we sell it on the open market from there. It goes to Brunei. It goes down to Brunei. It goes to the Philippines. It makes the whole circuit. There's no honor among thieves, especially when you get in the oil fields. You know, Rex Tillerson was Trump's Secretary of State. And Rex was over there with Putin going, oh, yeah, we can help you. Man, we can help you with that. We'll help you drill those wells, and then we'll get a pipeline started for you. I mean, we built a pipeline all the way through Alaska. We know how to do it. We know how to do it. Well, we need a seaport. Well, guess what country has got a seaport? The Ukraine. No. Yes. I think I went to Ukraine. So they can
this went from aliens to Ukraine.
We jumped that bridge. I'm just throwing this out there. The oil is
it's all good.
The oil world reality is like the cryptozoology.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people believe it, but man, it works on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
So let me just say this. Around Sirius, and people call it the Dog Star, it's not only the home of the Dogons. There's a planet there that's 9.5, 9.4 light years from Earth. And the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and all their kin come to Earth for repopulation. Now, a long time ago in a land far away, Art Bell did a show about Bigfoot. And this guy down in Texas said, I shot one, but it only had 3 toes and was it a thumb and 3 fingers. It was genetically inferior. It had altered, it mutated. And he shot it. Well, he covered the whole thing up because he didn't want the publicity. Okay. So, so the chain of evidence to discover a new and rare species is critical. And it's mandatory to get it to that level. Yeah. Now here's the other thing about parapsychologists. They can't publish, like doctors, they can't publish in a medical magazine or a parapsychological magazine unless they buy the magazine, they've been a member for so many years, they kissed the golden ring of the grand poobah, and yada, yada, yada. And then they'll publish something. And they'll take a contribution.
Yeah. Okay.
So about $500 or $600 later, you're saying, gee whiz, why do I even need those? But it's for fame and ego and glory, and I understand all that. But homie don't do that. Homie's on a personal quest to find the truth, you know. Yeah. And homie doesn't need to get a bunch of old fogies to sit around and poo-hoo the latest discoveries. Now,
I think that's kind of part of the answer to Drew's earlier question is that, you know, science, on its fringe with all the tenure involved, as you were
Yes.
talking about.
Oh,
You know,
God.
they don't want new ideas because, you know, that's going to interfere with their paycheck. You know, what was that line from Ghostbusters where you don't know what it's like out in the real world? They expect results.
Yeah,
And we can just sit here
exactly.
at the university and just make up whatever and continue to go business as usual. And it's created its own religion, believe it or not, of the like you said, not skeptics, but pseudo skeptics who
Yeah. No,
they
it's
don't
a club.
want they don't want the answers. They don't need those
Oh,
because
no.
Well, and see,
It's a club. It's a club.
Yeah.
It's a club.
It's a
And you gotta
club,
pay
right?
for membership. Yeah.
I always figured that it was, you know, over the years, so much has been done in cryptozoology, you know, the unknown species that they find, and so many large names in the scientific field have spoken up and said, nope, don't work, it's not possible, blah, blah, blah. But then you get this guy who gets this irreparable proof
Yes.
that it does work, and the whole scientific community closes in on them and says, no,
Right.
that's
Right.
not.
And not to get off track and end the show on, you know, go towards the end of the show with that, but it's very true. And, you know, the gentleman who discovered the human finger bone alongside dinosaur tracks and dinosaur bones, he's, you know, they're shouting him down. It's like, well, they were there.
Dr. Ball.
Yeah, we had species of man that was around when the time the dinosaurs were. I kind of knew this. It's not a new thing to me. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think that's bad science. I hate that kind of stuff. It's refreshing, like with Dr. Lynch, and there's some others who are coming along, man.
Okay.
They're starting to say, listen, no, you know, we have to, you know, we're starting to tell more of the truth than we ever did before. But there's still that club still exists.
This club's still there. Now, this is where what I point out, and I point this out to the Ghostbusters, cryptozoologists, everything, but the voodoo women down in New Orleans. You have a periodic table of elements.
Yep.
Okay. Now, we didn't find all those at the same time. They didn't magically fall onto that table. You see, they were found and they were pieced in like a puzzle.
Yep.
And that's what paranormal investigation is all about. That's what cryptozoology. You have a piece.
Right.
I have a piece. Drew has a piece. Elmer has a piece. Mary Marshall may have a piece. I don't know, but you know, there are people out there, and they're doing their piece, that one piece. And once you put it together, you have the periodic table. And then no one ever says, "Oh, I don't believe in that. Gold doesn't exist. Lead doesn't exist." You know, I got people running around that says the Earth is flat.
Oh yeah, those. Don't make my head hurt, doctor. Yes,
you gotta love flat earthers.
There are people who I mean, I don't know. I wanted to study it more. You know, about it's the same thing with the moon landing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I can get on a telescope and I can see the devices sitting on the moon.
Yeah.
So how did they get up there if we didn't land on it?
Okay, our spy satellites from orbit at 40 miles out can read a postage stamp on my letter. And for the kids that don't know what a postage stamp is, that's a very small thing.
Yeah, it's U.S. Postal Service, guys.
Yeah,
it's paper. We send it to the mail.
Yeah,
the box out in front of your house is for.
Check that out in the history books. But it's
kind of weird,
and they can read that postage stamp. Okay,
right
now they've turned these spy satellites toward the moon. Now the Hubble said the moon was too bright. And we can't see anything on the moon because the moon's just too bright. But our spy satellite sure did. And they went to every lunar landing and even showed the tracks of the lunar modules.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So,
and there are telescopes now and cameras. There are cameras now. My daughter has one. She showed me a moon one night, and I'm like, I can see everything.
If you're an astronaut and you've been there and come back, you have the tightest sphincter in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was a one-way mission.
Yep.
A one-way mission. So I don't belittle or besmirch any of those guys.
No.
What I look at is the propaganda machine of America at that time and how they were willing to fake it until you make it. You know.
I'm sure there's a degree. I'm not going to say there's not.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean,
Apollo 13 was not coming back. Did you want to walk over to Jim Lovell's mother and wife and kids and say, we lost him on the dark side of the moon?
Yeah.
No. You're not going to do that.
And understandably, folks, this is why a lot of them getting older and to their deathbeds too, like Cooper and a few others, we're letting some secrets out of the bag too about aliens and different things up there.
Things spotted. Yeah.
So
come on.
Neil Armstrong, when he stepped on the moon, saw 3 black, dark ships on the edge, on a mountain edge right there, and they were watching them. Apollo 15 or 14, I forget which one it was, had a 5-mile wide vessel follow them back home with 2 other 2-mile wide vessels. Okay, everything we did in the 1960s was copied and sent to Japan. And you can go and pull up Apollo photographs of weird stuff. And the Japanese go, yeah, sure, it's all in the file. You go down to NASA and they go, well, we lost that. We lost those negatives. I don't know where they're at.
Who was the astronaut that just recently, in recent years, he kept some film, remember, from the capsule?
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen that now, and where that object is basically shadowing them, and it's making 90-degree turns. And and it's not space junk. Yeah.
The SSI is up there right now, and they videotape this stuff all the time, coming in and out of the Earth's atmosphere.
Yep.
I mean,
and to get close to the end of the show, we were talking about reptilians. I know we're all over the place as usual.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I think that's one of them too. And June, not June, but oh man, who did I have on the show that she had a run-in with a reptilian in a cave?
There's a couple that's had sex with them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's Tanya Ling. She's one of the MUFON people, and and she had worked at one of the military bases in when she was younger, as did her family. Now, when she had run-ins with UFOs, our immediate question, Emma and I stopped the interview and said, "Whoa, you don't think that's connected to what you were doing at aerospace?"
Yeah.
And she said, "No, because we were in the office, and when we made copies of all this sensitive stuff, they had guards there, and we were to turn our backs when the copy machines were running."
Yeah.
So the weird part is that she had said she had a run-in with one of these in this area. They took them down in there, and not such a pleasant experience.
Yeah, I mean, Almagardo, I can't pronounce it properly. There was a girl out there who got enlisted, or somehow her orders got changed, and she had to ride she got into a UFO and had to lay down on the floor because she was cargo. And the captain of the ship was a reptilian and treated her like dirt. They say that, or she says that they went to Mars and they got off on Mars. And she spent like 6 months on Mars. And their main game was ping pong. Whoever goes to Mars plays ping pong to get it out of their head. But they still tell them that they're in the desert. Now, a lot of people boo-hoo this, but the Manchurian Candidate is a real thing.
Yeah.
And they can deep psych you to where you're in Texas, or you're in
and you're not
Montana. You're in the Badlands of South Dakota, or whatever.
Watch Mission Impossible from the 60s, guys. They did that all the time to people.
LSD, psychotropic drugs.
Yeah.
So anyway, all I'm saying is that some of our own service people are sworn to secrecy. And then they go on these missions, and when they come back, they are totally erased. Whether it's electroshock therapy, whether it's the magic mushrooms, whether it's the drugs, whether it's the people that stare at sheep. There's 1,001 ways to expand your mind, but there's 1,000,001 ways to change your mind. Okay, and that's what a democracy should never have been. Was a bunch of sheeple just doing whatever the government told them to do. A democracy is designed to use its mind and change it very seldom. So so when there was a couple of people that came back, and their brain is scrambled. They got post-traumatic stress. From what? Well, they claim that they went to Mars or some moon around Jupiter or Saturn, and they did a whole mission there for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then they come back, they're deprogrammed, and then they're released out into the wild.
Yeah. There's been a Marine private who recalled everything and has been hitting the shows.
And the VA has to pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about CBD under Nixon, Nixon was the one who did not want cannabis experimented on or actually used, but it was the first thing that would help with post-traumatic stress.
Nixon, my fellow Americans,
but
I am not a crook.
But down in Arkansas,
I just had a thing for tape recorders.
But down in Arkansas, there is a 1 acre that grows the best hemp in the world, man.
Oh yeah,
and the U.S. Army controls it.
Well, sure they do.
So they were doing their own experiments. There's one chemical company in America that makes LSD for the military. They make 1,000 vials of LSD for the military.
Oh yeah.
How is it used? Heavens no. Okay. Yeah. But let me just say this. I'm going to say this. I'm not saying anything. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not that kind of guy.
You say what you want to say on this show. There's no.
But I'm just going to make this statement. If the FBI, I'm just going to say this. Why would the FBI ever use a hybrid to technically remote view me or you or Drew at any time?
Oh, they will claim for its national security and espionage and to spy on the other countries, right?
Exactly. Right. But that's not the point. The U.S. Patriot Act should have had sunset laws in it, and that was only to tap my phone, to read my emails and crap like that. But to psychically spy on an American citizen by an American government agency.
Yes, sir. That's wrong.
That is wrong.
That is very wrong.
As wrong can be. And I am as American as you can get. Both sides of the
Me
pond,
too, sir.
Okay,
yes, sir.
So don't get me on my patriotism. But when but when some he's not even a spook, he's not even working with the CIA. When some FBI agent thinks that they can get a hybrid and then scan you, me, or the girl next door or whatever for some type of national security is bizarre, if not stupid, and my tax dollars should be pulled from that program. As it was with the men who stared at goats.
Yeah, and that's why June said she got out of the project. She got good advice from her mother and said, "Hey, this is going to go deeper than you want.
Oh yeah,
it's going in bad directions." And June's like, "This is why I stepped out."
I got on this hand. Everyone says that it's the devil's work. Aliens are a devil. The devils. And I got this hand saying, if we don't have enough alien tech, we're not going to be number one in the world. You see what I'm saying,
Doctor? I had an interesting. I'll save it for another time. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Because I had an interesting conversation over the weekend. We went to dinner at some new friends' homes, and most of us there, all of us there are believers in God. I'm a believer in God. There's a higher power.
Absolutely,
whether he's an alien or not, I'll find out when my time comes.
Oh no, I can tell
the fact of the matter is, I brought up the alien thing.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid I brought up Ezekiel. Then I got information like, well, what the whole book of Ezekiel is about. I'm like, yes, I know. Didn't want to die. Okay, I get all that, but he's still witnessed. He still witnessed something. Okay, the point where it went was one of the people in the conversation, and she said I didn't offend her, but she got a little heated, and she's one of these people who's like, well, because it's in the Bible. And my wife questioned her, and she's like, because it says so in the Bible.
So,
and that's why I'm reverting back to some of the discussion is just like, listen, and her husband actually said, well, yeah, it's been changed about 6,000 times.
Yeah.
And it's all written by man. Yeah. And I still think it's a great guidebook. It's the best book ever written, man.
For children.
Murder, incest.
It's a coloring book.
It's a guidebook, man.
It's a crayon book. Yeah.
I think the underlying message behind some of it, now that it's been changed in many nicer ways, let's be honest. Again, if I'm upsetting anybody listening tonight, sorry. Don't be a dick, I think, is the biggest rule that should be applied to this whole belief.
Yeah.
Your fellow man.
Okay.
And women.
You can't have a 20-year war and claim you're a Christian.
Thank you.
You can't live in a capitalist.
You guys read about correct.
You can't live in a capitalist society and be a Christian. If you are, you serve two masters. You're going to hate one and love the other, or love one and hate the other.
Now you
It's-
can be spiritual. I suggest that you
Sure,
become spiritual, because
absolutely.
I'm not belonging to any religion anymore.
No, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell
Ain't
you.
happening.
I'm going to tell you the truth. There is a creator, and that creator can do creator stuff. And don't you ever believe?
That's a nice way to put that. He could
Don't ever believe.
I
creative
like that.
things, stuff.
Don't.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm gonna rub something in you. I'm gonna rub something into your salt into your wound. Okay. In Jesus's prayer, he goes, "My Father who art in heaven," right?
And his name is Howard.
No, his name was Gabriel.
It's
His
it's
real,
the joke,
Yeah, I know. No. His real
Go
name was
ahead.
Gabriel.
Yeah,
He
hallowed
didn't
be thy
say.
name.
He didn't say my heavenly Father.
No,
Mm-mm.
my Father who art in heaven.
Who is right now hovering in the heavens,
Mm-hmm.
not the creator of them. So he was, Jesus was a hybrid. He was half Pleiadian anyway. So
There's reports of people seeing him in the South American coast going up and down.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Every religion, Fatima, Lourdes, Virgin Mary sightings, somewhere in the Ukraine and Herzegovina or whatever. Okay, all these places are from the Pleiadians.
Yeah,
flat out. Abraham and Sarah saw 3 angels appear to them in the desert, and they ate dinner. They were Pleiadian, man. They were just.
Yeah, okay. She was upset. That was part of the discussion. Was she didn't like aliens being referred to as like the angelic, and it's like, why can't they be? I don't understand. If you're going to absolute everything, you'll never learn anything.
That's right. Okay. Now I want to point one last little thing. I'm gonna shut up and do whatever. But Enoch. Okay. So this ship lands and picks up Enoch.
Right.
And the first thing they say to Enoch is, "Shit, man, you stink. You're a stinky little boy." And anyway, they take him up into their ship and they go, "Ooh, oh man, is bad on this guy." Anyway, they fly over to a building, a hangar, and they land their ship. And Enoch gets out and they hand him a ruler. And they go, "Enoch, measure this entire building." He goes, "Why?" "Well, that's the reason why you're here. You're here to measure this entire building." And he goes, "Okay." So he's out there and he's taking this ruler and he's measuring stuff and writing down notes and measuring stuff. Now, you tell me, any Bible scholar, what in the hell is he measuring? He is measuring a hangar for a UFO or a UAP or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
He is measuring a physical place
so he can
where a UFO comes down and lands.
Correct.
Okay, so they had a whole base. There was a whole base there. Okay, then later they go, "Well, this kid's not too bad, so let's take him up to the mothership. And we'll introduce him to the captain." So he goes up to the mothership, and the first thing they do is delouse him, man. Puts him in water and scrubs him down with soap because they didn't know what soap was. And he was just barbaric little animal. Wash his hair and put oil in his hair, and he comes out. They robe him in the same clothes they have because his stank, man. They must have flushed him into space. And then he goes through the garden and he says, "I see gourds here that I have never seen on earth." And he keeps walking, and then there's the captain and his general staff. And he goes, "This must be a god." No, it's not a god, man. You're on a spaceship. And anyway, as the story goes, Enoch is told the earth is going to go through a flood, a deluge. And so he goes, "Okay," he goes, "I need to go down to see my son." And so Enoch takes this Encyclopedia Britannica volumes down to his son. And he says, "Limerick," he says, "keep these books because after the flood, you will need to know what's in these books. Keep them and they will help you rebuild society."
Right. Yeah.
Well, Nineveh gets wiped out. And those books just seem to vanish into history. But I know where they're at. and they're in the just outside the city of Mosul, in the old city of Nineveh. Okay, so those books are still around. They're made with a polymer that did not decompose. So if you can dig those books up, you can prove to a lot of people that there was another society in space that had that stuff. We look at the Roswell crash and see the same wreckage and say, well, that's not from us. We didn't make that. You know, this bends and pops back.
Yeah, the foil,
metallic memory metal, you know.
Yeah.
So that proves it's not from us. Elon Musk said, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's not ours. It's here on Earth, but it's just not ours.
It's not ours.
And man, I'm sitting there going, yeah, but you know, Elon, you haven't even got permission to go to the moon, let alone go to Mars. NASA had to get permission. They had to kiss the ring, you know, and Elon's not even close to that. So he's got good ambitions, but until he gets prior approval, he ain't going. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's 100,000 humans on Mars and another 100,000 extraterrestrials.
You know, and I remember back in the day too, when Art was alive, that he had released an audio recording from the Air Force from 57 or something. You may have heard this. I know it's out there. I've been trying to find it. Yeah.
Where Rich, man. Oh man.
They're on Mars and these guys are having a conversation, and it's an Air Force base up there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure.
And it had been verified by several people. So hearing that was just breathtaking to me. I think you've told us before, and I've heard before too, Doctor, that we have probably bases on the moon and other places
on the dark side of the moon.
I mean,
now, we didn't build them
easily.
They're remnants of the civilization that brought the moon here, but they are
because oh God, I love you. I love you, Michael. I love you.
Wait. Okay, wait a minute. One last thing. Okay. Now, we know in 2004, we had the Tic Tac incident, right?
Right.
In 2000, Ben Rich makes a statement, and he says, gentlemen, with the technology that we have today, we can get up for breakfast and fly to Mars and be back by lunch.
Yep. Okay,
now breakfast was 6 a.m., so if you calculate that, that's fast, man. That's just ludicrously fast. Okay. Now, Ben Rich makes another statement, and somehow it just disappears out there in the informational superhighway. But Ben Rich made a statement. He goes, the planes of the future will be flown with a suction cup on your head, or a halo, which is a ring around your head. And in the old movie Firefox, Clint Eastwood wore this helmet which would read his brain thoughts and then arm the airplane so that he didn't have to flip buttons. He would just think fire torpedoes or fire whatever. You see what I'm saying? Okay, Ben Rich says this. Okay, in 2004, they come across the Tic Tac. Okay, and not only did they come across one Tic Tac that was kind of giving them a diversion kind of thing, there were 80 behind them. And they're all flown, guess how? With a suction cup on the left side of the skull. So, Ben, where are you getting your stuff? Because we ain't making it.
Yeah, right.
So that being said, what are your views on the recent news? 2 days ago, I got on YouTube early morning, and a lot of your scientific channels that produce videos and release them to the public had brought up the fact that it would take like 9 months to Mars. But recently, I think it was an Italian scientist accidentally realized he had developed a minute warp bubble by accident. So this warp speed theory that we have been saying is not possible for years, now they're saying, oh shit, we have one right here. Yeah. All we need to do now is learn how to ride that wave. We have the bubble to do it.
What do you think orbs are? Orbs are energy bubbles in a three-dimensional space. What do you think a UFO flies in? A warp bubble. It's actually a tesseract. It's not a tesseract. It's a tesseract circle. It's a donut. Think of a donut.
Yeah.
Magnetic tube north on the bottom, south on the top, or vice versa. That's exactly what an orb does. Same anatomy.
Yeah.
It's just that one's mechanical, the other one is natural because it's going through our environment. So it has to have certain natural properties. Okay.
And Michael and I, we discussed this before because that airplane pilot who witnessed the one literally 25 feet from his canopy, it was encased in what he said was a square box, and it had a sphere. It was in a bubble, and it was doing all sorts of stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Because why is that so important? Well, if you're in the theoretical physics department, it's because you don't have to use that much energy to make yourself weightless. The bubble does it by itself. All you have to control is the speed and the height and the height and lower part as you go. Once the bubble forms, you are in a different dimension altogether. So you can take 90-degree turns. You can go up and down. You can go into the ocean. You can fly to the upper atmospheres. Why? There's no pressure on you. Charles Hall said the tall whites get into their white kind of predecessor to the Tic Tac, and they would sit in regular chairs made by Boeing. Okay, pull up the old Star Trek show, and look at the chairs that Mr. Spock and Lieutenant Uhura sit in.
They're just chairs.
There's no seat belts. There's no shoulder straps. They're not tied down by jack. And that's exactly what Charles Hall said. Once you get into the ship, there's no effect on the outside because the ship automatically generates the outer field that you pass through. And I brought this up to one of my old astrophysicist teachers back in the day. I said, think of it. You either travel through space or space wraps itself around you.
Yep.
And I said, okay. And this is the other thing too, fundamentally flawed. If you want to travel through time, you either have to have a spaceship that's devoid of any gravity on it in order to go through time, right? And it's better to go in a spaceship so you don't end up in like an asteroid belt or whatever. You know where you're going. Okay, so a spaceship can travel through time, okay, because it's designed to do that naturally, to have an outer force field to make sure that things bounce off of it. Okay, so you're going to take a picnic lunch and go to Mars. It's going to take you 6 to 9 months, depending on how close Mars is to you and you're planning. So you got a picnic lunch, a couple sandwiches, and you're going to go to Mars. You have no force field. You have no way to turn around. Again, it's a one-way mission, man. It's one way. If you get hit by micrometeorites and the side of your ship gets ripped off, you are gone. I don't care if it's titanium. I don't care if it's upsidasium. If you don't have an outer field, you can't go to warp. You can't use a wormhole. You can't. There was a scientist on YouTube the other day. I thought it was pretty, simple. It was high school experiments for kids. And he takes this copper tube and he takes a magnet and first he drops it through a glass tube and the magnet just falls through just like a rock. And then he takes it and drops it through a copper tube and the magnet goes real slow, goes woo, 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 goes down real, real slow. Because the electromagnetic bubble around the magnet is creating electrons, scraping electrons onto the copper and slows its gravitational force down.
It's a stasis field.
Right. So the Earth's pull has been negated. It's been negated. And if you can increase that magnetic field, it will get in the middle of that tube and stop. Because it's being the electromagnetic field negates it. You see? So that's why you can travel all this. You can travel 50 light years a second, just like we travel 50 miles a minute. If you just understand that wormhole effect. Now, a friend of mine called me and said, Mike, let's put you on the air about some time travel stuff. And I said, yeah, sure. And he goes, I don't believe in time travel because the Earth will have moved. The sun will have moved. We've moved position. So your coordinates is all wrong when you end up back at Pines Mall, Twin Pines Mall. And And I said, yeah, you're absolutely correct. But if I had a wormhole and I knew the frequency of which I was going to go,
Yes, sir.
then I would open that wormhole and just slide through.
It's like a homing signal. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm here on Earth. I'm going to go to Mars in an hour or less. I'm going to create a wormhole. I'm going to slide through that sucker because there's no outer particle disruption. Okay. And then I'm going to slide through it. I'll be there in an hour.
And what he's saying,
So you're
folks,
talking about like a hypergate theory.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
You beat me to it, Drew.
But the ship creates it. The ship.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think a Stargate is?
Yeah,
What do you think
a Stargate.
Stargates are?
Yeah. And also, you know, from one old Trekkie to another old Trekkie, we know there's no seat belts and shoulder harnesses on those seats because of inertial dampeners.
That's right. That's right. They're supposed to repel. But what all those are gyroscopes that are spinning
all the time.
All the time to keep the ship. So when Sulu hits it, it's got to pivot. And the ship has got to turn like a regular airplane, or it can pivot. So when they're up against Khan in the movies, Kirk gets a great idea of going to Z minus. And so they just use thrusters to make it go down. Well, Khan just flies right over the top of him because he, you know, it's two-dimensional thinking. He thinks he's in an aircraft and not a spaceship, you know. And so so that's kind of the idea. And the Enterprise can pivot on itself, and no one should even be out of their chair, you know, because they would feel nothing if your shields are up and your dampeners are working.
Yeah, and the only reason that they were thrown around half the time is like when something's hitting your shield and you throw those dampeners out of whack, well, then you're going to be going left and right and tipping upside down and sideways and everything else. But I wanted to say two things. That the reason I went,
I'm sorry.
Okay. But no, I because when I told you that I loved you, and I do love you because you brought up the moon
in a man kind of way,
in a man kind of way, in a friend way. You know, the moon. You know, he made a very good point. We still now. There were people that would tell you they know what it came from. Whatever. I remember this is a true thing. I remember as a small child in grade school, we had scientists that came to visit us from NASA. They showed us the moon buggy, all this crazy stuff. They're getting ready for 13 that had the moon buggy or wherever it was, or 14.
Yeah, the lunar module was it was 13. Yeah, 13.
Yeah, I get lost.
Well,
but
13
the point was
he's like it went around, but 14 landed and they had
the buggy. Yeah. So the thing of it was, he goes, well, the first thing is I got bad news. You know, 9 billion years from now, the sun's going to burn up.
Yeah.
And everybody got really upset. And he's like, listen, 9 billion years is a long time from now. Then the other thing that he went on about, he said, well, you know, we still don't know what the moon is. We don't know how it got here. We can suppose, we can surmise. Yeah. He goes, but there were a group of scientists trying to tell people in NASA that, well, you know, and this is the truth. I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
This came out of a piece of the Earth. It grew in size because of the gravitational pull, and that's what created the moon. And even as a kid, I was like, what? That's, you know, what the hell are you talking about? Well, so even then I knew it was a bunch of BS. And just to hear people talk recently on the show called Paranormal, which I'm listening to a lot, you know, he had a scientist on there and he said the same thing. He's like, we still do not know how this got here.
Oh, I do. I can tell you. I can tell you how it got here.
Somebody brought it here.
And I can tell you when. Yeah. 250,000 years ago, it was brought here by the ships that are still here in our solar system and orbiting our sun.
Yep.
And they are the size of the Earth. It took 3 of them in a triangular position to set that planet, and it was a planet in the middle, and they used their warp bubbles to move it. Now, it took 1,000 years, and it died on the way here. But in Apollo 15, these guys were out there. I may have told you this story before. They were out there like doing donuts on the moon, and they hit a bump, and the thing kind of stopped, you know. And so the astronauts got off, and they were going to like pick it up and get it out of the dust. And then when they did that, they saw clay on the surface of the moon. And the astronaut goes, oh, wow, this has topsoil. This has soil, like clay. Okay, well, that's just iron-enriched soil. So all you have to do to terraform the moon is give it water. Now there's a big ice chunk on the south pole of the moon.
There's water. Yeah.
There's a water there. Now, instead of it using it, we can sift the dust for H3, but we could use that water to reanimate the moon. Why do you think they call it the Sea of Tranquility? Because it was a sea. There were oceans. There's water there. Now, instead of it using, there's oceans on the moon. There was oceans on Mars until they, okay, this is what I was going to bring up about Mars. When the Viking landed, they did a soil sample, and all of a sudden oxygen came back like way out of the crazy, and they go, oh, that's just something got caught up into the tube. What I was going to bring up about Mars. When the Viking landed, they did a soil. So anyway, what happens is that Carl Sagan says that was just oxygen left into the tube. Well, that's stupid, because they put Viking in a vacuum and sucked all of the bacteria and air out of it before they wrapped it up to ship it to Mars.
Possible. Yeah, it's not.
It is totally impossible that they can contaminate. Okay, and then they did it again, and it came back. Well, there's not as much oxygen in it. Well, of course, you dirtied up the tube. You've already worked the sample,
right?
If I grind marijuana down to a certain point, there's no point in having marijuana. It's what I'm saying. It loses its contextual value, but it did tell us that there is still oxygen on the moon. Now, Dr. Brandenburg, in his infinite wisdom, I have nothing against him, but he is absolutely, totally, ridiculously wrong. No one bombed Mars with plutonium weapons. That is bogus.
I've heard that before too. I think it's something else, because obviously it was alive.
These guys down at NASA are smoking and drinking their own water.
Oh,
okay. So there were two plutonium reactors on Mars. When Mars shifted its orbit, they became unstable and blew up. Okay. It killed probably 18-20 billion people in a couple of weeks' time. Chernobyl was a firecracker compared to what happened on Mars.
Oh yeah.
Which made Mars almost totally untainable and unlivable. Okay, because the plutonium went all the way around, which killed a lot of the plant life. The Martians, still not wanting to give up, went underground. Okay, but they're not indigenous to Mars anyway. So they took what was left of the indigenous ones and took them to Earth. And then, lo and behold, the Paracoccus, the big skulls, show up exactly the time Mars plutonium reactors detonated, because they shipped as much as they could to Earth. Okay. Now, what do you have on Mars? Well, you got oxygen. And you got rare minerals just coming right out of the ground: gold, silver, copper.
And NASA can't explain how the atmosphere is enriching itself.
Yeah.
Every couple, was it 20, maybe 100 years, something like that. And it's like, well, how could it be growing and getting better? Well, it's healing itself.
The ice packs at the North and South poles. Have you been watching them lately? Back in the 60s, there was like ice on both poles. Slowly, that ice is melting. They're having global warming just like we are.
Yes,
because of the sun. Those poles are disappearing and creating an oxygen atmosphere.
And here's a secret, folks.
So
it's cyclic, okay?
Yeah.
Don't listen to that idiot that tells you polar bears don't have a house.
The polar bear is going to eat the Canadians, so I'm not really worried
there's so many
about
of them now. Yeah.
I told some people, I said, the reason why America doesn't own Canada is because we didn't want it. Too cold.
I love my Canadian brothers and sisters.
We
we
don't
want it. You guys can have the 10-foot drifts and the polar bears and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
I flew over Canada one time coming back from Europe, and we came over the northern, tip. We probably went over the pole, but I looked down. Okay, and I'm in a 737, and we're cruising, and I'm looking down, and I see this line of caribou that must have stretched 20-30 miles. It took us like 5 minutes. I mean, we were traveling close to the speed of sound, so it took us like 5 minutes, and I saw that whole herd of caribou. I said, I don't know where they're going. It's just hockey and beer and Canadian bacon down there. But they were up
And-
north. I mean, they were like northern Hudson Bay,
Canadian bacon.
and they were going south. You know, they were going
hockey
south.
and beer. Yeah, you're speaking my language. Well, we have delved into a lot of things
Oh, I'm
tonight.
sorry.
As
What was
always.
it? I forgot what the topic was today. But anyway,
Well, we did Bigfoot, and we talked a little bit about aliens.
The topic was you, Dr. Lynch. The topic
he's always
was
the topic.
you.
He goes everywhere.
I've got one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Now, there's a NASA website that I use to watch my cosmic brothers. And right when the Greys, the Zeta Reticulans showed up, there was one last photo taken. And then instead of going from 1,900 hours to 2,400 hours, suddenly it just stopped working. They just quit taking photos.
Imagine that.
For 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
For 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, okay, well, maybe something's wrong with the satellite. I tune in the next day, and guess what? It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah. I gave up watching those too, because the same thing. All of a sudden, I was watching some of the space station footage when, they encountered something, and it made it on live TV, and I saw the damn thing. And next thing you know, there's a cut. There's a feed cut from NASA.
Yeah, exactly.
And they put on some professor talking about the speed of light or something.
There was a professor out of NASA. He worked for NASA. He was an astronomer, and he pasted like 100 still frames together, and he saw these two gigantic ships just fly up to go around the sun. And he was just putting them on a loop, and he's just watching them, and he goes, I don't know what those are, but that is just so fantastic. And
insane.
I just like, those are the size of the Earth, dude. It's not fantastic. It's magic. It's
I remember that is a miracle. And I remember you're describing exactly the kind of discussion that started when the first Independence Day came out back in the 90s, and everybody's like, is this possible? I'm like, I think this is kind of registering on a note with a lot of people that if something like that happened and showed up, what are you going to do?
I think
what would we do?
I think someone got a hold of Lucas when he made Star Wars. And the Death Star, and they actually say it. This is in the movie. They go, that TIE fighter is headed for that small moon. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi goes, oh, that's no moon.
That's no moon.
That's no moon. Because why? Obi-Wan Kenobi knew that was being built.
Yeah.
Anybody
listen? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, they keep going toward it. It takes them a couple of minutes, and then they go, "Oh my God, it's a space station. Let's back up," and they can't back up, so they get sucked in. And I'm sitting there going, "Yeah, that's the amount of power that one space station could have." Okay, that's the size of the moon. What about the size of the Earth?
Oh yeah,
or larger. They have the galaxy class now. So you take 2 or 3 billion people, and you're in Andromeda or the edge of our galaxy really quick. Makes you think.
Easily. And don't think that this Dyson sphere thing is something made up on Star Trek, because they discovered something very similar to this, and they still not sure what it is.
Oh, it's out there. It's a Dyson.
That's a fact. Yeah, that's a fact.
The crazy part about it is the people that made it died out 1,000 years ago.
Easily.
And it's still transmitting energy. So here, there's this old Star Trek show where Kirk beams down to this planet, and they're all androids, and there's a guy named Rock there.
Yep.
And then Kirk goes, maybe they made their machines too well. Maybe they gave them a sense of pride, a sense of survival. And then Rock goes, survival overrides programming. And that's exactly what you have in the Terminator. That's exactly what you have in all these sci-fi.
Survival.
And that's right. And so you have a machine that just generates energy from a nuclear fusion source, which we worked on back in the 70s. But anyway, nuclear fusion source, and it doesn't know when to stop. It just runs and runs and runs.
Yeah.
It's like our sun. Think of our sun wrapped around in aluminum foil. And the aluminum foil is taking all that energy from the sun and then shipping it to a planet. This makes solar cells look like a child's toy. My God, this is power. This is ultimate power.
And all of it's
Fourth
connected in
stage
some way. That would be the underlying
Yeah.
message I have from tonight. And I would tell everybody too, the part of the discussion we didn't get into, and again, we're going to have you back on, would be you talked about math and physics and stuff, is my understanding as a human being with an open mind that, to think that we know everything or that we understand everything about physics and math. I mean, it's nonsense. Let me just tell you, it's nonsense because we've reached that point due to our perception of what we think is the end. We think we've explained it all. Now, if you look at these craft and the things that Dr. Lynch pointed out, that they're able to do, and, anti-magnetism and all these things that are involved, the math may be slightly different or greatly different somewhere else if these people are from another place. And it's math and physics that we don't understand, because remember, we didn't find tablets under a damn tree that told us, here's how physics work, here's how geometry works.
Well, we did. That's got to be another story. But
that's another story. We did find them under a tree, apparently.
I'm just going to tell you that Phil Schneider said straight out that a lot of foreign elements, not on our periodic table, 40 more, end up outside of Area 51 once a year.
Oh, sure.
And they're dropped off by the Greys.
Right. I understand that. We're slowly fed information.
Right. And what did the Greys fly? They fly these Gulf wings, these big black wings that flew over Phoenix. It was just a regular cargo run. And the whole city of Phoenix is all up in arms.
As with the Sasquatch.
It's like you don't even have a clue. The governor of your own state was in the military. He knew not to say anything because of the panic of the people.
Yeah, hence his ridiculous thing that he pulled off. But, we, as with the Sasquatch and the triangular craft, we've had both of them here in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
They chased one up the coast there through South Haven, Benton Harbor, all the way up to Muskegon and back. And then it was back out over the lake, and then, 2,000 or 3,000 feet in the air, and it's gone.
Yeah,
fast.
Oh, that's just a blimp. That's just the military blimp.
Yeah, horse
triangular.
And,
slow.
God,
stealth,
the horse crap. They
stealth blimp. It's what it is. It's a stealth blimp, man.
Yeah.
Well, now don't forget, we can't do the blimp thing anymore. The government did just last year release the story that we do have extraterrestrial, unexplained crafts flying through our atmosphere that they cannot identify.
I think it's
so.
My question
is, it could be cat people.
Since Atlantis fell and before, we had UAPs in our skies.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We don't own this planet. This is not ours.
They're painted Native American paintings, etchings. They're in frescoes all throughout Europe.
Yep.
How the hell? And they look like straight out UFOs. How the hell would they know?
Vermana.
They saw them. They saw them.
Vermana is the singular word that's used halfway around the world, from ancient Peru to the Philippines to China to Japan. Vermana, the Easter Island. How do they move the big statues? They drug them, but it was Vermana energy that lifted them. You see, the ancient Tibetans use Vermana energy to make things work, and they blew horns. The walls of Jericho came down because the children of Israel blew horns 7 times.
Vibrational frequency,
it's a hyper
man.
vibration. It's a
hyperbaric frequency, right? Isn't that what that is? Or hypersonic?
No, it's
he's the doctor. He's going to explain this better than
me. It's like EMF. It's an alternate frequency that vibrates energy. But anyway, I'm just saying,
with the tone, with the tone, right?
Yeah,
because we have one for crowd control. I've seen the Army using it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep.
Yes, I went to a gas station one time in what time was I in? I don't know, but I went to a gas station, and as you pull up to get gas, they had this like speaker going all the time, just all the time. And then when you walked into the gas station, you didn't hear it, but when you walked out, I mean, no one stayed more than just a tank of gas because the sound was like
get gas and get out of here.
And that's how they kept people from gathering on their property. It was this crazy sound.
That is brilliant. Well, this has been an enlightening
Wow.
discovery tonight, huh?
Yeah.
You were always a pip to have on this show. I'm telling you.
I have
I
got to have Dr. Lynch on my channel sometime. I mean, he's such a vast compendium of knowledge that we could touch on any subject and run for one of my full interviews, just talking about any one thing, let alone the 19 we talked about tonight.
Here's a topic. Here's a topic for you, Drew, and you can do some research on this. There is a hammer that Dr. Bauer has, and it was encrusted in rock, and the wood handle colonized, and the hammer did not rust. Okay. There is a column in India that has been there for a millennia, and it has not rusted.
Nope.
There's another a bar in the ground 100 miles away, and you line these things up, and they are grid maps. It has not rusted. Okay. There's metal on this planet that is not rusted. It's made from chlorinated metal and does not rust. We're not talking stainless steel here. We're not talking stuff like that. We're talking about something so old that we have forgotten. We've got amnesia on how it was made, but it was encrusted in built up clay in Brownsville, Texas, where human footprints and dinosaur footprints are side by side. And you can't really tell who's hunting who, but it looks like the man is hunting that dinosaur.
Right.
Okay.
How about the Southern Valley, you know, where I saw a whole giant show done on this in high def 3D. I want to say that maybe Mel Gibson narrated or somebody did that was Australian or known. If you remember this, Dr. Lynch, as we close here, that it was all about all the pyramids and all the trade that was going on throughout the world.
Yes.
And we're now
trade.
just rediscovering this. And then in the swamp nearby, in these areas of Virginia and Ohio and some of the valley areas, they were finding white people with red hair and beards who were buried in these swamps. I mean, it just blows your head up. You're just like, you know, we were so much more at one time than people want to give, you know, I guess ourselves and what was going on at the time credit for. But this is why I do this show, because it opens up so many doors of thought and mystery. And it's amazing to me, and it's wild that we can be so much more, guys. Everybody listen to me. We can be so much more if you just stop thinking in absolutes. Please stop that. Stop it.
We're not teams. We are all the same. We're all the same people searching for the same truth. But let me tell you the odd thing that may stick out in your mind all through history class through high school is that America was the great melting pot. Okay. Now, a handful of people still say that today, but that was where we did not see color of skin or background or anything like that as prejudiced. We didn't, because we came from a monarchy, and so we were going to treat everyone equal under the law. Now, when I grew up, we were the melting pot. We still are to a great extent.
Yeah.
But when I see out and out blatant racism, that just like says to me, we're losing some genes in our gene pool.
And some of it's always been there. I don't think
some of it's always been there. That's true, because that's how tribal warfare got started.
Oh, yeah, but natives were doing it way before we got here. Let's not get on that either.
God
forbid we tell the truth, Doctor. Don't tell the truth.
I'm just saying, keep searching for the truth. Everything else will fall into place.
Right, correct.
That's all I'm saying.
Correct. No, that's good. But thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you, man.
Dr. Lynch. And I'm
Most
sorry I kept you so
definitely.
late. Drew, thanks for being here, man. It's good to.
It was my pleasure. My pleasure. I mean, there's so many things I would love to sit and discuss with Dr. Lynch, from my own, you know, abduction dreams, the PTSD, being diagnosed with PTSD after my coma, you know, just everything, the vision that I had, what they called comatose delirium.
Yeah, that's a joke. Yeah.
Oh my God, man, I could tell you things you'd want to put me in a book by the time we got done. So we'll talk. We'll find a way to talk.
I'm just going to say this. When I was younger, and I mean younger, transcendental meditation was a dirty word. And that is the only thing we had to fight psychoses, post-traumatic stress,
Yep.
bedwetting, it goes on. I brought that up to my son's pediatrician. I said he needs some transcendental meditation for his anxiety. And he looked at me like, what in the hell are you talking about? And I said, you're 80, man. I'm 60. And if you don't know that cured more people coming out of Vietnam than any other time in history, I said, you better go back to school. I had a nurse. Oh man, I got in a almost knockdown, drag out fight with a couple of nurses. And I said, if you learned that in medical school, I said, then it's not medical school. It is just another psychological cult that has pulled you in so you can distribute pharmaceuticals. Man,
yes, sir.
Oh man, I want to. On our next show, we'll talk about diabetes and the breakdown of the mitochondrial DNA, and that's why you have diabetes, and that's why you have neuropathy, because it's the breakdown of your DNA, and there is no medication for it. If someone tells you that there's another snake oil salesman in the city.
Yeah,
they're trying to sell you something.
That is a whole nother discussion.
It's genetic research, man. That's a whole show we need to get into.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
We need to get into
thank you for that. Yeah. And
I'm just going to.
Friend, we haven't met face to face yet, but that's coming. I want to remind everybody that we in August of this year, August 20th, 2022, we're going to be at a place called the Van Buren Poorhouse Museum in Hartford, Michigan, and it's Ghostorama. From 1 p.m. to 7 p.m., you can have a paranormal meet and greet with a bunch of paranormal groups. Drew's going to be there. If Dr. Lynch can make it up, he can be there. It's free to the public. We're going to have food truck. I am talking with somebody right now, so maybe we have some good barbecue. And there's a lot of things going on. It's a paranormal meet and greet, so hopefully folks can make it out. And I don't want to be replete by not mentioning Frankenfest. If you go to frankenfest.com, you can see the dates. I know that the first one is at the Turner Dodge House in Lansing, Michigan. It's a historic mansion. It's known to be haunted. Yours truly will be doing a paranormal lecture there. Again, in September, we'll be at Fort Wayne in Detroit, and I will also be giving a paranormal lecture there. And my lectures, folks, consist of just talking paranormal, telling you the do's and don'ts, so to speak. I show you some of the equipment. I show you some video of places that we've done. We hear some EVPs. And then I leave the rest to your imagination, as we say. You are to see this stuff. You make your own judgment on what you're seeing or hearing, because you can think I'm as full of poop as the next guy. But I generally take the integrity and stuff that I do in this work pretty high. And I'll leave you with that. And I will tell you just happy hauntings. Keep your eyes to the sky. And if you cannot be kinder and smarter, please, 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 be quieter. That is an easy thing to do. I practice it quite often. It's called silent courtesy. Dr. Lynch, thanks for being with me here tonight.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Hey, anytime you guys, need to go off on the edge of reality and take 2 more steps, then, someone always said, I hope you don't swim. I had this guy, he was a professor in college, and he says, I hope you don't swim. And he says, why? He goes, because you always go to the edge of the diving board and just fall in. And I said, yeah, but that's where the truth is.
It is. It is.
And if you hold back, now I understand a lot of people may lose a lot. Yeah. And you do lose a lot, but at the same time, you gain a lot. And if you have truth in your mission, you will find that truth, and you'll see that everybody else is a slave, and they're a slave not only to ideas and cults and things they have in common, they're a slave to themselves and their mindset. And a few years ago they were talking about we need a paradigm shift. We need a paradigm shift in business and education and commerce, and it was like it never happened, man. People are just as ruthless and greedy today as they were thousands of years ago. Nothing shifts. You gotta do it. I watched a cartoon the other day, and it says, if it's got to be, then it's up to me. Or something like that. And so you take on the responsibility of finding that truth. And everyone understands truth. They may believe in a lie, but they all understand truth.
Wow, I couldn't have ended it better. All right, everybody, join us next time here on Unrestricted Paranormal. Go to www.unrestrxtd paranormal.com. That's our network, and you can hear us Saturday and Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on Unrestricted Radio. Tell your friends, your family, even the family you don't like, to go get this app. It's free download. You can Bluetooth this anywhere. Gentlemen, you guys have a great night, and
thank you.
A safe week, and I will talk to everyone very, very soon.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.